This conference will
Good
now be
morning.
recorded.
Good morning, esteemed colleagues and citizens of Sedalia. Today, as we open the 2024-2025 annual budget planning session, we stand united in our commitment to prosperity and the well-being of our city. Our agenda is focused and clear, reviewing the proposed budget and hearing from our department heads. In our discussions, let us guided by the principles of transparency, fiscal responsibility, and our collective good. Our decisions today will shape Sedalia's future tomorrow. I call this session to order. What I'd like to do, it's not on the agenda, is go ahead and start with prayer and pledge of allegiance. Go ahead and Councilwoman Bogus will lead us in prayer.
Dear Father, as we enter into this meeting this day, we ask you to grant us the ability to make wise decisions on behalf of the citizens of Sedalia. For us as leaders, we ask you to please touch us, lead us, and guide us. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda is a review of the status of the 2024 goals, and we'll go ahead and have Administrator Shaw lead us through that.
Okay, hang on just a second. It's messed up on me here again. Okay. Basically, we will go through, if you'll remember back a year ago, yesterday, or tomorrow, I guess it was, we went through kind of the same process, and we had the scoring, so I think it's a good idea to start out with where did we end up last year, where are we at with all of these priorities. And so last year we scored 17 items in the general fund. Coming out in order here, number one was the body-worn camera update for $90,000. That was funded. I believe they're here now, right? But they're not all implemented yet, but we're in that process. Police Specialized Response Team training and equipment, that again was funded, and a good amount of that is done, but there's still some that's on order, right? Police recruitment incentives, $30,000. Again, we've funded that, and I'm not sure exactly how much of it's been used, but I know some of it's been used. So. Fire pre-hire added staffing, grant funded, and we delayed that because we delayed the construction of the fire station. And again, that will come up again in this year's scoring. And if you'll remember, Chief Irwin's strategic plan, we talked about changing that around, and it will be grant funded dependent on that. The charter city process, really that's legal that we had set aside. It was scored number 5. It was funded. We haven't used that yet. We haven't really kicked that project off yet. Fire higher flow, low pressure attack package was funded and is all implemented, right?
No, part of it is still on order. So we
Okay.
acknowledge and everything that's several we're waiting on.
Okay. Fire medical UTV vehicle, that was, we set that up in the budget that if we got a grant, we would do that. We were not successful in receiving a grant, but we're still hopeful on that. Dangerous buildings demolition funding level, that was funded. The 353 neighborhood revitalization seed money at $200,000 was not funded. Basically, we decided through the budget process that we have about $500,000 sitting there now through previous years funding of that seed money. So we thought we would hold off until we got more projects going and had additional needs. 2021 building code implementation, that was funded, and I know where'd Devin go? There she is. I know we're in process of that. We've bought the books, right? And so everybody's studying it, and they are in the middle of reviewing the 2021 code, and we'll be bringing that to you all here very shortly with suggestions for modifications to the code as we adopt the 2021. Right? Did I say that fair? Administrative vehicle, we did not fund that for the mayor. What we did is we added an allowance, and he is comfortable with that. Fire inspector vehicles, 80,000. We did fund one, and I believe it's here and in place, right? Freddie, the fire truck, we said that, again, we would do that if we could find a grant, and we have not been successful at this point to get a grant. Electronic plan review software and equipment, that was funded, and I know we've looked at that. I don't know that we've purchased anything yet, have we? Yeah. Good. Code enforcement vehicle for added position, that we delayed that. They are currently using the pool car, so again, that will be in your scoring sheets again. Retail recruitment consulting, 60,000 was not funded, and really I think part of the reason why that was not funded is we were not happy with the folks that were presenting, so that was part of why that was scored lower. We have changed that, what we want to do with that a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think that's something we still need to go forward with in some way, some fashion. So, animal control, update the older van. We did fund that at a lower level to just take care of the mechanical needs, but it is another year older and another year in worse shape. So, but that's where we're at with the general fund. Transportation and aircraft mechanic, we funded that as part-time, and as we were going through the budget, that was really where Derek ended up, where we funded that. Upgrade the airport fuel farm, that was funded. However, we've been working, really trying to identify what DNR really wants, right? And so we've made some progress on that. We've fixed what was really needed to be fixed, but we still don't know what they really want as far as the valves and all of that. End of the month, okay. Remodel the old airport terminal, that was ranked number 3, but we didn't have it designed yet, and at that point in time, we still had a tenant in it. We no longer have a tenant in it, so it's something that we would like to move forward with now. Rental airplane was not funded. However, as you all know, we've come up with a different way to approach that, and that is in process now as somebody else, a public-private partnership is doing that. Hangar lighting upgrade was not funded. The self-service aviation fuel hardline connection was funded at a lesser level. We still are having difficulties with that. Last I knew, we were trying to get the wireless deal going again. I don't know if there's an update on that. Are we up and running? Waiting on parts. Still waiting on parts. Okay. T-hangar storage area was not funded. The big one, we had 21 items we reviewed or scored, and in the capital improvement fund. And this is the order that they came out in. Fire station, the 1 and 3, $22.7 million was funded. However, as we got into that, the 2.7 million is not enough, for a fire station. And, and we had some challenges with locations or where we were looking at it. So we went back and looked at it again. So there will be more of that to come up, later in the presentation. Stormwater project grant matching funds, that was, funded, and, I know there's, design work. I'm not sure exactly where we're at with all of those projects, but, we are working on that, and it's ARPA grant funded, so this is the match. So.
We actually have 4 projects out for bid.
Great.
This year. They're actually being finalized right now.
Great.
And I'm April, we'll advertise it.
Great. New fire engine for the 3rd station, and we delayed that to when it's needed. Obviously, we don't need to add a truck until we have 3 stations. So, Clinton Road resurfacing grant to 32nd was funded and done. The 32nd limit lane additions, improvements, and cost share, that is funded. However, we still are working with trying to get MoDOT's attention well enough to get that high enough on their priorities to where they'll put some money aside for it. Sidewalk and curb funding level, again, we funded it to the point to do the design work, if I remember right, and the design work is out for RFQ, or where are we at on that one?
Don't know. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. I know we've done the RFQ for the design work. I'm just not sure where we're at with it. So. State Fair Boulevard and Main Roundabout was not funded. And there's been some movement on that, as you all know, and we'll talk some more about that later. So Fire Squad 3rd unit, again, delayed until we need it. Sidewalk 65 Highway 7th to Liberty Park Boulevard was not funded. The alley reactivation was not funded. The 50 Highway Katy Trail overpass widening cost share was not funded. The sidewalk State Fair Boulevard, 50 Highway 3rd to 65 Highway was not funded. 16th Street Complete Streets was ranked number 13 and was not funded. North Harding and Boonville, Highway 50 to the airport improvements was not funded. Monument and wayfinding signage brand launch was part of that concept, was not funded. The 65 highway ramps at Main, again, and this would be a cost share. Most of that should be, if not all of that, should be done by MoDOT, but we thought if we could allocate some funding to it, we could get more attention from MoDOT. Extend Winchester from 16th to Sacagawea. That was not funded. However, there has been some movement on that, and you all have approved since then, and we've done a budget amendment to hire the engineer to design that. We have a meeting coming up with the stakeholders on January 17th to see if we can get that design finalized as far as exactly where it will go through. Bikeway Amtrak Depot to Katy Depot was not funded. The Extend Pro Energy Drive to Oak Grove was not funded. The 65 Highway in Sacagawea traffic light was not funded. And then the downtown decorative lights purchase, which again was not funded. Some other notable updates that progress that we've made this year. The Victorian Towers Historical District process is being implemented. The Chapter 353 abatement that process was formalized. The projects have been designed, and the expansion of the 353 area to include the downtown area or fill in the donut hole as we talk about it, is in process. We've gotten the blight study and the tax impact, done, so it's, you all should start seeing some of that stuff come to council here pretty quick. We have to have a meeting of the redevelopment corporation first, and they have to approve a redevelopment agreement, and then it will come back to council to approve that redevelopment agreement. Main Street Concepts, we have re-engaged that, and it's moving, great progress there, and pleased to announce we've achieved the affiliate status again, and you see there the three different tiers on the graphic there of what we can be. We are at the first level, which we have a lot of company in that first level. But we were the first in Missouri to be part of a city that is also an affiliate. So congratulations, Jolie and John. A lot of hard work in that. Christmas lights expanded. The public-private partnership with the event pavilion is ongoing. We again expanded that relationship quite a bit, and continues to be serving the community well. Parking lot expansions, downtown property acquired for redevelopment. The Paul Brunn grant is in process. You have the first 5 waiting on the state, right? Federal. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Some are turned in, others are working on next 5.
Yeah, and that will consume all of the grants in the first 10. So. And we had to actually convince them to put in more match to fit 10 in, right?
Right. We had 23 applicants. The top 10 were approached. There's a couple that have lost in the match, so we might move down a little bit.
Sure. Okay. We'll still continue working on cleaning up titles, our whole land bank concept and all of that. Unfortunately, those take a long time, and that's why we have to do it as opposed to leaving it to the private sector to do it. So. We've updated the codes, several codes. You all have been very busy this year in some pretty healthy or meaty issues, if you will. The transitional housing, I know you all spent a whole lot of time. The staff spent a whole lot of time. That was a very open and process, very transparent process that we got a lot of community involvement in. Mayor Dawson set up a special ad hoc committee, if you will, to pull all that together. I don't remember how many meetings we had, but they were numerous. So I thought it was a great process. Came out with a good project. So lodging ordinance, again, you all went through that. We implemented a whole new lodging ordinance, and since implementing that, the state is now using our inspection process. So the state relies on us, and they will not issue them a state lodging license unless they pass our inspection. So it's made a lot of difference, and helped us a lot in improving the conditions at our lodging facilities. Is that a fair way to say it? Vacant structure ordinance, we have that. We are still struggling a little bit in getting that implemented. We do have the ability to do that. It's just really staff has been focused elsewhere to be able to get that pulled together to get it implemented. Nuisance property ordinance, again, you all put that together, and we have used that several times to where we now have the ability, and I think it's been effective in at least a few occasions, where we can approach the landlord and say, hey, if you're going to allow your property to become or to be used illegally for illegal activity, then, we're gonna declare your property a nuisance, and you will no longer be able to own your property or continue to use it as for illegal activity. And I know we've used it a few times, and I know it's been successful. Administrative search warrants, again, we've, done code changes to allow that and to develop the process. And again, it has been effective, and we've used that a few times, used it judiciously, but it does give us the opportunity to make sure that we are protecting the citizens' right to due process and get the judge involved, but yet gives us the ability to clean up some areas that we haven't otherwise been able to clean up. Probably the biggest place it's been used is in abating property, like the towing vehicles and those kinds of things. So, but again, make sure that the citizens have due process before we go seize their property. So, recreational marijuana, that was kind of thrust upon us, and so we had to deal with that. So we had to update our codes for allowing recreational marijuana as in accordance with the constitutional amendment. I know not everybody was in favor of that, but the voters spoke, and so you stepped up and allowed the complied with the Constitution. So,
Yeah, I'd like to take just a moment and commend the council. Just in the first several items those are several divisive topics, and you guys have handled those with grace and with decorum, and I greatly appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. I echo that. I mean, you all performed admirably throughout all of that. And then finally, as far as big things, the animal control code. We completely revamped all of the animal control codes, and they are completely different. It gives us better ability to control the abusers, but yet gives us more flexibility to handle those that are not abusers. So again, I think it was a good product, and commend you all for working through that with us. The e-ticketing is implemented, the abatement cost added to the tax bill, Citizens Police Academy, the POP program, problem-oriented policing, if I remember right. The CRU, the crime resolution unit, is functioning, and the SRT, as we talked earlier about, is in process. And I mean, the unit is there and functioning. Some of the equipment is still on order.
The entire unit is certified, and we're expanding on our capabilities. And the vests are in, and many of the items that the order specifically for are being utilized at this for a long time. Yeah. Some equipment to arrive.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those units we hope we never have to use, but we want to be prepared if we do. It's I'm sorry, the SRT is Special Response Team, right? So we've unfortunately had opportunity to use those and use that as tactics in the past, and our officers performed admirably. We just need to expand that, or just are expanding that as far as the more training they have, the safer they are. Prior pre-planning and inspections are all caught up. Moved the fire employees to loggers, and are currently still in process of getting them to manage the old, the legacy plan. And we got an update here this week that they are doing in the final step, but it's going to take a couple more months to get that done. We also signed the collective bargaining agreement with the fire local. That again was spent a lot of time on it, and it was, but I think we ended up with a good agreement. I think the local is pleased with it, and I think it was a good compromise between the city and the locals, so. The economic developments, the developments there, I won't read all of those, but, you can see we've had, once again, very significant, developments that have happened throughout the year. The ones on the left are really already done. The ones on the right are either, in construction or, in process, so.
I could say on that note, with the comprehensive plan a couple of years ago, looking through it now, the median household income was $41,000. With Jessica's presentation the other night, it was $47,000. So the median income.
No, that was, yeah, her average wage was just the added jobs.
Yeah. So I thought it was the entirety of the city. No. Never mind.
Yeah. But the point is still there. The jobs we're adding are above the average, so they're pushing the average up.
Right.
Okay.
There'll be another opportunity for this.
The building permits, once again, we had a strong year of building permits, another 35 million, thereabouts. You can see historically that's, at the upper end of the average, if you will, or above average. Economic development, that's the number that Councilman Oldham just referred to. It's my understanding those numbers are what the jobs that were created, the average salary was $47,000, so we're right at $47,000. Again, I talk about these in terms of game changers or things that change the landscape for the community. Obviously the economic development we continue to have success there. Even though it's slowed down, we still have a healthy pipeline. And there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that necessarily has to be kept confidential for the sake of the developers. And it's one of those that you'll work on 100 projects to land one. So, but I can tell you from my own personal experience, we still get a lot of attention. We are blessed that people want to look at us. We are considered in their searches when they're looking to expand or looking to locate here. We get a lot of attention. So, Eckerd Community Center obviously was a game changer for us. It has really made a huge difference in the whole community. The Olin Howard Tech Center, again, makes a huge difference in our economic development opportunities and how we are viewed by manufacturing firms. And then on top of that, State Fair Community College has already embarked on the next $50 million worth of the phases of their expansion, which a good part of that, again, folds into the economic development because they're expanding their programs. And Councilman Oldham will probably say more about what they're doing there, but they're remodeling the places where the Olin Howard Tech Center, those programs went into the Tech Center. Now they're remodeling those sections to where they can do more of the HVAC, the manufacturing or the industrial electricians, and robotics, yeah. And then they're also doing dorms, so that
we just approved a $13 million, almost $14 million bid the other night. So residential dorms, and then of course the CAT building. Because the Center for Agriculture Advancement Technology. It's a good acronym. We were working on it, but I don't think we can steer away from it. But we call it the CAT building. So that should be coming in the next couple of years as well.
And of course, they purchased the farm, so now they're gonna do a lot of stuff there. So again, it changes the landscape for the whole community. The rail spur, again, changes the landscape. The Katy Trail connection, again, helps us with, the tourism. Airport hangars and mechanic services, we have greatly increased our abilities and services with our airport, and again, makes a difference. It makes a huge difference in how we're viewed from the economic development community. The comprehensive plan, we put a lot of work into that and finished that up last year, year before, 2 years ago. And we are still involved in implementing that. More to come on that as we go through today's presentation. Water and sewer master plans were completed. The ARPA funding, we have allocated that out. Still haven't spent all of it, which is a good thing, because we wanted to make sure that we spent that in a way that prepares us for the future, as opposed to just wasting away and never have we're the better for it. Stormwater grants, the Paul Brunn and CDBG grants, the urban redevelopment plan, the streetscape for Ohio and Pacific, and then the Main Streets re-engagement, again, changes the landscape of how we develop and go forward. And then, of course, the brand development. Any questions, comments? Yeah, time. Close.
Councilman Robinson.
How did the city revenue this year compare to what we planned for?
Oh, glad you asked. We are a little bit behind. Let me bring up a chart here, because we just got an update yesterday. So this is the update that you'll see later this month. You can see that sales tax came back a little bit. We are at 4%, which is right at where we budgeted for the month. But then that gets us just a little above last year on sales tax at 0.2% in January fiscal year to date. However, our use tax is up significantly, and again, this month was up significantly, and brings us up to $334,000 fiscal year to date. Much of that is because of the new ruling. I believe that much of that is on the new ruling for the Wayfair ruling that the state legislature did. So that's where it shows up, is in there. And then you'll see we finally got our first monthly installment on the marijuana tax, that extra 3% tax on marijuana. And by my calculations, that's about what we should see every month, is about $30,000 a month. So we're selling a lot of marijuana in the city.
That doesn't include our base that we get off of that, right?
No, the sales tax that we get off of the marijuana is included in the sales tax. Okay. And then the extra 3% is separate there. And that's the way Jessica and I talked about showing it as a separate line item. So hopefully that's the way you all want to see it. But what that brings us to is you know, the increase, decrease, year to date total is at 1.4 million, almost 1.5 million. The budget variance for the sales and use tax is now at 200,000, came down a little bit, but we have a negative variance of 200,000, but that includes that marijuana tax. So the rest of the year, we hope that we'll catch back up a little bit on that, or as far as where we're at. But that's kind of where we're at, is we're about $200,000 under budget for an unfavorable variance. The franchise tax, if you're, you know, the reason why that's up to 400,000, 377,000 of that, or 378,000 of that was the settlement that we received, that's for several years back, from Charter on the streaming video. That was a class action suit that was settled this year, so we finally got that payment. Transportation, the gas tax continues to be up a little bit, and then the property tax, we have a significant variance this month, and that's just timing of when it comes in. I think you'll see that variance go back the other way in January now, and we'll be back pretty well even at pretty cost. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, council?
The marijuana sales tax, we were gonna use those funds for the police department, for training for that, for marijuana detection and horrible term.
For the DREs?
DRE, thank you. Is that gonna truly take up the entire $360,000 that we're gonna bring in off of that marijuana sales tax, or are we gonna be able to use those funds differently now?
Yeah, we can, but yeah, that was part of what we had
That's the main
promised the
intention.
voters.
Yeah,
was
absolutely. I didn't know.
we would.
Another thing those can be used for is to, completely fund the SRT team, the special response team. They're gonna need some additional assets in order to do their job.
So is the plan for the entirety of that sales tax to be directed towards the police department? Or are we going to use another for community development or anything else? Because I don't know what income I was expecting. I feel like $360,000 is a lot. But I couldn't tell you what exactly I was expecting to bring in.
Yeah. I don't know that, I mean, they're not restricted to just the police department. However, we have self-imposed restrictions by what we told the voters we would use it for.
Yeah.
And so we said that if they passed that, we would use it for things like the DREs and the special response team and those kinds of things. So
we've got other things coming up too in the, that you'll hear, further down the way in the budget presentation with regards to LPR, license plate recognition. That would be used to have in the city.
Yeah.
Shot detectors and also,
Are we seeing then funds that we would normally allocate towards the police department that can be replaced with this sales tax, and those funds can be used in other areas?
to a certain degree, but I would caution that thinking in that.
Yeah, that's not.
It's growing.
Don't want to take anything away. I'm just making, I want to make sure that, you know.
We'll get to part of the problem is part of the problem that we're having right now is the expenditures are growing faster than the revenue. Okay. Even including the marijuana sales tax. So, as we grow wages to include the police department, that needs to be part of that. So, would we have had to deal with that even if we didn't pass the marijuana tax? Yes. So does that enable us to pay for that increase to where we don't have to take away from other? Because, my philosophy is the government's number one job is keeping citizens safe. So it's police and fire has to be our priority. So, so after that, it's how much do we have left to allocate for others? Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah.
any other questions, Council?
I want to comment, could we set up a deal, like the state on their marijuana tax, the first 40% is allocated to the veterans. And then after that, they call it a waterfall tax. They could, they can fund whatever they want out of it. So, could we do that? Could we do a percentage deal to set up and be with our means to do that? Set up a percentage like out of that $300,000, 50% of that goes to what we said we were going to do with the police department, and then the rest of it be allocated to the other projects within the police department.
certainly you can. I mean, council has that power.
I don't wanna go away from the voters, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you,
But I think if we put a percentage on it, I think that would be more sustainable to talk to people about, well, look, this tax, you know, like the state right now, you know, you know, 40% is gonna go to the veterans for the amount of tax. But the rest of it, they're gonna put it where they want to put it.
yeah, but that was by the, constitutional amendment.
Right, and that's what I say, could we set that up where?
Well, we did, when we were out there talking about that, the idea was that those funds would go to offset the negative consequences of that,
That
legislation.
I mean, it would all stay to the police department, but guarantee a percentage.
And we're gonna have additional costs with regards to personnel, the police department, things like that, as that's growing, so I don't think we'll have any trouble spending that money.
Yeah.
No,
Well, yeah, and really, I mean, at some level, all funds are fungible. And so we spend way more than $360,000 in police department. So if you say that, you know, all of that money is going to the police department, you're accurate. And we will have growth in the police department budget, at least at that level. So you can legitimately say 100% is going to the police department. Now, can I say that we would have to cover that without other funds? And so is there some supplanting going on? Possibly, but not to any high degree.
Well, I honestly hope that numbers go down.
Yeah.
You know, less people use the drug, but I mean that's
Yeah.
me. Yeah, but we might as well. I feel like we ought to use that drug money to basically that's what it is. We ought to use that money to fight against it. So.
Any other, questions, council? Okay, having heard none, we'll go ahead and move to the, next item on our agenda, overview of presentations given over the last several council meetings. Assistant City Administrator, Wirt, will go ahead and handle this.
Well, good morning.
Assistant City Administrator.
Oh, good morning. Yes, I have the task of going over all the different presentations that came out this year with the department heads. I found that it is really hard to condense their presentations into one slide. So if there are questions or things that you have along the way that you'd like to ask, all the department heads are here to help you with those questions and to help me with those questions. So moving on to the first portion of it. So this is a journey, not a destination. So we're looking at our goal to strengthen our strategic planning. It is easy to get focused on the what and the why when we put together the what and the how, but we want to put the focus on the why. So why are we providing this service? What does this service provide to our customer? But who is our customer? Our customer is our citizens. We want to focus on what our community needs. So when we look at that, those choices then become more clear of what we need to fund and what we need to provide to our community. We want to avoid the government thinking trap of how much do we have, and then looking for how to spend it. So we don't want to look at a dollar amount and think we need to spend all of that. Look at it from a zero-based budgeting aspect instead. We want to look at this is the service that we have to provide, and this is the service that we feel is important in our community. And we want to take that and use the funds that we have to put that service at an appropriate level. So we want to think lean. The concept of anything that does not provide value to the customer is inherently waste. So we've got to focus on that service and what it provides. So the continuous improvement mindset of it can always be better, and that this is a journey. It's not a destination. And as we go through the year and with the budget amendments and considerations that council has, you see that is that part of it as a journey. Also, part of the method to the madness is the increased ability for data-driven decisions. So each year, the department heads use a database that allows for them to take each line item in their budget and give an explanation of all the items and the tasks and the services that they're going to provide and the funding for it. Those are reviewed during our budget hearings, and now having been on both sides of that table, I can see the importance of it. One of the things that's considered while we do that is the 3-year detailed history. So it allows you to look at the past 3-year averages, and that is very detailed, but it also provides a window into how we need to budget things, what our expenses are, and it really does help us with our decisions and the packaging and the prioritization of things as we see those. Over the past few years with COVID, for example, and the supply chain shortages and the keeping equipment longer, we're going to see those 3-year averages increase in our maintenance. Hopefully some of the replacement plan programs that we have upcoming, we can reduce that cost back down. But it really does add a performance measure as well, and helps us make value-based judgments by measuring those outcomes. And we will continue to focus on those more and improve that aspect of it. We have implemented our longer range financial planning through the 5-year plan, and we're also focusing more on the 3-year line item forecast to move forward. As we go through these plans this year, we've got some of our newer directors, and with the structural changes within the city, they're going to have an exciting opportunity to become more involved in that process. I'm going to sit down with each one of those department heads and make sure that everybody's on the same page and that they have what they need to bring you guys some valuable numbers, and that we can put together a budget that is focused on that why. Those questions that they're going to look at is, why is this service needed? These were also the same items given to our team during their presentations to council, to look at why the service is needed, why should the city be doing it, and what level of service are we providing now, and what kind of strategies going forward, and what do we want to do with that service, and how we want to increase it. These are our conversations that are in many of our council meetings in discussing if we want new or expanded initiatives. This portion of it, also with what we're doing today, is it allows time for council to digest these items, what we're talking about. I know with the size of purchases and the things that we're discussing, those are some pretty big ticket items in some cases. So it gives you the opportunity to think about that and the level of service it would provide for the folks that we serve. This facilitates also some time during the session for open discussion among council as we go through these different planning sessions and work sessions for discussion. And again, the department heads are here. They are prepared to answer your questions, and they're excited about what they have upcoming. It's been an exciting opportunity speaking with them already in the few weeks that I've been in this position, and seeing their passion for what they do and how they want to serve the community. And I really do believe that is their focus and what they want to do. We more clearly also want to identify our funding restrictions to facilitate more informed decisions. So as we go through these, again, these will be broke down by the different funding sources, so we can determine what that funding source is, how much we have, and where we want to fund the different services. So again, it's broke down as we go through this quick overview. It's broke down by our primary funding sources. We'll discuss it by department order as it's accustomed to seeing it in your financial statements. You have readouts and handouts that you have there with you, but I have taken from their presentations and put this together. We've pulled out the items from the presentations that are major initiatives. many times don't get caught up in that we can't discuss something that might not be on the presentation. We did try to pull out some of the things that are just our basic replacement plan and things like that with equipment, because those aren't necessarily new initiatives. Again, it's focused on the funding source, and also split between the primary funding source and some of the capital improvements. We can also refer back to any of the presentation and handouts during discussion. And again, the department heads are here to help. So the first one that we're going to start off with is the fire department out of the general fund. Their goal is, of course, to provide quality fire protection and medical call first responders. So their plan for the future, as we have increased call load. Chief Irwin, when he gave his presentation, had shown that although it's positive that we have growth in our community and we have more visitors, which is important to all of us, and actually shows the growth, that does have a situation where we have to respond to more calls, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we've got to strategically place our facilities to reduce response times. In his presentation, he also discussed how fires are burning faster with the type of materials that we have, which means we have to get there faster, and that we have to be capable of responding to those situations and what they need. So not only do we have to strategically place our facilities, but we also have to build our apparatus and staffing capabilities to match that growth in demand. So that situation is obviously going to be fluid as we see the growth throughout the community and the areas that it grows. We'll have to take that into consideration. Also part of this presentation was to implement realistic training and build a training facility to advance our capabilities. In all of the training that's done, the more realistic that it is, it's just better training, and it provides anyone that's involved in that the ability to raise their capabilities to a much higher level. So our major initiatives within the fire department that Chief Irwin presented was fire station replacement to replace Central Fire. As it's been discussed, that is an aging facility. It also does not have the size and capabilities to hold some of the new apparatus. Also, again, that training facility, he gave a couple of slides that gave you guys some pictures and some ideas of what that training facility would look like, and the advantages of it. Also was in there was a replacing an engine. His presentation discussed the age of the fleet and the need to replace it. Of course, with the fleet that's responding to emergencies, we want that to be reliable and have the ability to respond to anything at any time. We don't want fire trucks broke down. But those fire trucks are now at a 3-year delivery date. The product of COVID and supply chain shortages, and I believe they were also, to begin with, already something that took a long time to build. So we've got to start planning for those, and we've got to look at our rotation program with not only fire trucks, but all of our equipment to look forward in the future. Because if we replace those items at a plan level, we can reduce our chances of surprise purchases, but ultimately we will reduce our cost in maintenance and reduce our costs for the future. Another part of that plan is the aerial ladder truck. That also has a 3-year delivery date. The purchase of a brush truck, and then also with the additional squad trucks that are coming in, his suggestion is or a recommendation is to move from a 10 to a 12 staffing model. So it would require hiring 9 additional shift personnel to cover all the equipment that we have and to provide a better response. He also presented some the ability to have ballistic vests and mass casualty bags that would provide the supplies needed to deal with the situation. Much like a lot of things, we hopefully never have to use that, but it is always better to have it and never use it. And again, the medical UTV, providing access and the ability to reach areas that we wouldn't normally be able to reach with our current equipment.
Can we go back to the fire department?
Sure.
Can we discuss pricing? I know the last, we discussed, we put on hold the plan, the building plan for fire station. Is that accurate still?
Yeah, we, basically, when we were working with the architects, they were telling us that, you know, basically the uncertainty was still in the supply chain. And they were wanting to build in, I think it was like a 10% contingency for COVID. And so we were wanting to delay that until that settled down. Now, there is some settling of that, so it's becoming more predictable. And then we went through the conceptual designs and trying to get it down to a reasonable number. So you'll see in the scoring sheet, it is now a $4 million project. And then the training facility is a $1 million project. And,
$3 million?
I'm sorry, $3 million, yes, yeah. And we're still gonna struggle to get under the $3 million or get it within the $3 million. I think the last time the architects were at about 3.4, somewhere around in there. But we're still working on that. So for the scoring process, I think the $3 million is probably a good number, ballpark number. It's not going to be really the budget number. The other part of that is we have really changed direction, I guess, if you will, on, or changed our thinking on where the locations need to go and the 3 units. We had the community spoke. They did not want us to go into Hubbard Park, which was where we were going to go the first time. So the community spoke loud and clear, and so we're not going to go into Hubbard Park. So as we were looking again at different locations, it really came down to, as we really look at where the community is growing, where we have our gaps, that may not have been the best plan in the first place. And if we do the three station model now, then as the community grows, we may find that they're not in the right place. So we really backed up and took a fresh look at this, and jump in here if I'm misstating anything, but we jumped, yeah, we looked at.
Always try to be a person that looks at not what we need today, but what we're going to need in the future. And when we went to the 3-station model, that's what we needed today, and it doesn't necessarily benefit the city as a whole in the future. So when we were sat down and had discussions on station locations, number of stations, we really kind of took a wait and see approach to, because we don't know where the city is going to grow, and we don't want to spend time, money, energy, and those kind of things in building a brand new fire station that in the possibly near future now is not in the proper location for it, and then basically we're throwing good money after bad money. So we got to just kind of take a step back on that.
So, but we still have the problem that the central fire station needs to be replaced. So what we're looking at now is going back to really the property that we own, and going to the 5th Street side of that. So it would be just north and a little bit west of the current central station. Build it right there on 5th Street, and then take the part that's across the Katy Trail and build that as the training center. And so that's what we're currently looking at. If you look at the bubbles, and Chief did this a little bit in his presentation, but if you look at the bubbles of the 1.5 miles, we're still covering what our current locations are, but we know where some growth is happening, and it's not in that area. So it looks like what we may end up doing is another station probably south and west instead of the original thought, so.
So in our items here, we have about $7.5 million that we're looking to allocate fire departments correctly. In order for these items, because the aerial fire truck is 3-year delivery, the fire engine is 3-year delivery, how far, what's the time frame of this first fire station that needs to be built? What are we looking at that? Is it going to be built in 3 years' time, so should I prioritize our trucks higher, or is it going to be further out where our trucks should be prioritized a little less?
Let me say, and then you correct me.
Okay.
Those that are in there now are replacements of the current fleet. They're not adds. Yeah, so there's nothing in there that is for a third station that needs to be equipped.
Okay.
They are,
Yeah. So the ladder truck is the replacement of the current aerial platform that is 11 years old, and we have a 15-year replacement on those trucks. And so with the 3-year after design, you're going to be right at your 4 years by the time we have delivery of it. And then the engine and the brush truck are replacements for the aging fleet. You know, we have a engine 4, which is our basically frontline engine right now, where we're waiting for a current truck is 21 years old. When that new engine comes in, when our new engine comes in February, you have a 21-year-old fire truck that is now going to be your first line of defense if one of the other trucks goes down.
So how soon do we need to start planning for our fire stations in before it starts affecting our call times? Because we're already outside of our call time.
Yes.
Right? And as soon as Zoom is going to start affecting our ISO readings, how soon are we going to start planning fire stations? Like, should I prioritize $3 million a little higher now?
well, this $3 million is just replacement of the
Central Fire Station.
It's not going to the third station yet. And what we're recommending is we still take a little bit more of a wait and see of when and where that third station needs to go. Okay. So this prioritization is replacement of the central only.
Okay.
And replacement of the current fleet.
How much longer do we have on our central fire station?
We had a 5 to 7 year window when they did all the rehabbing, and that was 2017 we did that? 2018?
Yeah,
Ish.
somewhere around there, 17, I think. Yeah, and part of it, yeah.
Chief Irwin, could you briefly revisit why we need, the points on why we need to replace that central station, just for everyone's education?
So the Central Fire Station is greater than almost 51 years old now. It is 51 years old now. The station was built for smaller fire trucks, space. There are some foundation issues. There are some wall issues, roof issues, HVAC system issues that when we had the firm come in and do an assessment and an analysis of that station, basically said that it would need a significantly major overhaul, and then that was still only going to give us, a 5 to 7 year window, possibly a 10-year window and we did not go with all the recommendations, if I'm correct, that to make it go 10. So it's the age of the buildings, the size of the building. We're looking to add, when the squads come in, we're going to add a crew to that station. So currently right now, we only have 4 bedrooms. When we put 5 personnel out there, we're going to have to add a bedroom. So to the Central Fire Station. So it's just really kind of outdated, antiquated to what we need. It's not big enough. The current ladder truck, truck 2, won't fit in that station. So when we're planning for a new ladder truck, we don't really have anywhere to put the platform truck now on the east side of town, which is what we were planning on doing. So there are a number of issues with that building.
Very good. I don't think they make car covers.
If I recall.
Do what?
They don't make car covers that way.
No.
If I recall correctly, the cost to get that to 10 years was substantial, and it outweighed the benefit of actually moving forward with it when we reviewed that.
I believe the term was throwing good money at bad.
Very good. Any other questions, Council?
Thank you for the grilling, sir. I appreciate it.
You thought that was a grilling wait.
Okay, so moving on to the general fund and the police department, their current services, as was in the presentation, law enforcement investigations, traffic, crime resolution, and drone unit, K-9 school resource, and special response. As with the demand and struggle with getting good people in law enforcement these days, we have to have a competitive compensation and benefits package and work on recruitment. We have to be very effective in our recruitment efforts to draw in good people. As in the presentation, it is all about trying to get the right people that are willing to answer the calling and want to work for our community. There is a program of team leadership within the police department to build a strong professional culture. You've heard us probably talk a lot about the West Point leadership model and what that has done to the police department, and that is something that they wish to continue on with. One of the major initiatives with this department is also to use software to increase their efficiency and provide more time in the field. There are several pieces of software, there are actually 4, that were presented that allows officers to be more efficient in what they do through collection of evidence, through their calls, through also some analytics tools, but also through the ability to use all of that software to do more with less and to speed up their time for processing not only crime scene, but just day-to-day accident reports and police reports. Another initiative was using shot detection devices, using those in strategic locations around the city to enhance the ability to quickly respond to active incidents. These devices are pretty surprising. They can distinguish between a car backfiring. They can distinguish between fireworks to tell that it's actually a gunshot and locate it within that, obviously, that area that it covers, but pretty accurately within feet locate it. So as we know many times, and it's surprising how often you could respond to an incident, get there and wonder why no one called the police when the shots were fired. This allows that to happen. And they have several different ideas and plans to work with different groups within the community that it might benefit these devices to be in their area. Another thing that the mayor had alluded to is license plate recognition. These also can be placed in strategic location to track vehicles involved in illegal drug and criminal enterprise. These devices not only can recognize license plates, but say, for example, if we had a missing child and the suspect vehicle was described, you can actually search just based on the description. The software is smart enough to recognize taillights, bumper stickers, things like that, and only a partial license plate, which can be very valuable. It's also a shared asset with other law enforcement. So once you are involved in the network, you can look up license plates all or the same description as I've described all across the United States. So someone could travel through our city that's done something very bad, and another agency could look for that, and we could assist them in locating that vehicle, or many times used in the abduction of children. So it's a very valuable tool. It is one of those tools that can be placed wherever you choose and provide a lot of information. Community services, so that they provide special events, community involvement, DARE, social media, community engagement, all those things that you put together to engage your community to work together with you on solving crimes. One of those things is you can also have community-based cameras in your high criminal activity locations. With problem-oriented policing, you want to focus on a specific problem. You want to focus on the ability of the neighborhood and engage them to help you. You can put these cameras in those neighborhoods and in those locations and use them to help solve crimes. Obviously, if there's a video of someone doing something bad, law enforcement can use that. It can also be a deterrent. Continuing DARE and DARE Camp, the DARE program services over 400 or teaches over 400 children a year about making good choices. The DARE camp is something to reward those kids at the end of the year. If you ever have an opportunity to attend one of those and see the interaction between law enforcement and the kids, it is a great thing, and it's rewarding on both sides of the group. And also continue community engagement to help build relationships to solve crime. Again, you have to build trust within the community for those folks to report crimes to us, to work with us when we do have something as a city and as a community. So it's very important that that trust is there. Without it, we can have significant problems within our community. And we also, through that engagement, through such things as the Citizens Police Academy, you get feedback on what your community feels is important, what crimes they would like you to focus on. If you guys remember at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about the why. Those engagement programs and that interaction with the public helps us determine that why in the police department of where we need to focus and the service that we need to provide. So I'll stop there. I apologize I didn't do that with fire, but offer any questions to the police department.
On the camera, the hardware and the software, is that we're going to need to support that? Or, the internal hardware, what are we looking at a yearly cost on that? The maintenance with it? For the LPR? For your neighborhood 360 camera. We've got $50,000 allocated for that. Where's the,
well, I can
going to be for that?
I can offer a little bit since I started that project. So it's I probably am more aware of it, and I've been bringing him up to Interim Chief Woolery up to it. You have the ability to purchase a camera, and then there's a yearly service. The price that's listed in here, make sure I get on the right one.
Yeah, I just that was the purchase, the initial first year, was what I put in there, and I just ballparked 10. So it's scalable. We can start with one or two. But for the purpose of this, I just wanted to see where the level of priorities were for council. So I just said 10. And then if I remember right, the notes, it was like $3,000 a year for maintenance or something.
Right. And of course, it's like anything, it can increase, but yeah, your initial cost is the purchase of it, and where you locate it can affect the cost. The installation.
That we're able to move from location to location, or once they get placed?
For cost, right. Yeah, you can move them. Uh-huh.
Any other questions, council? All right. Well, the $100,000 for the license plate recognition, how many cameras are that? If I remember right, that was 4, wasn't it?
It's about 4 to 5, actually.
For the LPRs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we were looking at 9. We're working with the provider right now to come up with a plan to get coverage throughout Sedalia, so that regardless of where you come in, that the odds are that we would be able to catch that information. So I believe, and different intersections require more than one camera depending on their size, so that you're able to get all of that.
Yeah, and so the range that I saw from the notes, it was, we could start smaller, but it was up to 100,000. So the 100,000 would get us pretty good city coverage.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And this is going to be on the highways, 50 and 65?
Yes, sir.
Is there any cooperation with the state with that point?
As far as getting them implemented,
Yeah. As far as cost and sharing, because it's going to be on the state highway.
we would share the information, and they would share the information as well. It's not actually on, it's not part of a state program. They would be ours. But right now, we have, we request information from other agencies that would be partners. Like, we would be able to get information if a homicide we had a few years ago,
we got that vehicle going into the Kansas City area, and we were able to catch it there. So that would open, as Assistant City Administrator Ward said, we can share that information with them, and then we would actually have access to that ourselves. And to get that information now, we would have to go quite a ways east of our jurisdiction to be able to get anything that would leave there. But our window is not very good right around Sedalia right now.
As far as, additional funding sources, I'm on the Regional Homeland Security Committee. One of the things that they're looking at doing is, doing grant funding for those LPRs because they're a shareable, deployable asset. And so they've got, grants to build systems and they've got grants to sustain systems. So and they do those every year. So that's something we were gonna look at going to help augment some of those funds.
And now we would have to get permission from MoDOT to put it on their traffic light signals and those kinds of street lights, wherever we end up putting them. The other thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Sheriff's Department is also looking at doing a couple, right?
Yes.
And so again, we would share information with them, they would share information with us.
How many do we need? If we're gonna do 4, the sheriff's department's gonna do 2. It said 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Just think about it, like each edge of the town, you need 2.
Oh, both directions, yeah, okay.
To get both directions, and then some of them, it depends on how wide the angle is. Yeah, you get a 4-lane highway, you can't even pick up one direction with one camera, so, in some places, so, and then, do you just want people coming and going from town, or do you want people that are in town? So.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm late, I was coaching a little girls basketball.
Very good.
We also talked about one time, cameras like this on cars.
Mm-hmm.
Would this system then blend with that if we ever got anything on patrol cars?
It's all,
That probably.
we haven't discussed that, no, it's all license plate reading, technology. I believe that it would, Mary, with that, wouldn't it? It would.
So we could, if we ever got any, right now we're talking about everything static.
Yes.
And then if we got mobile cameras, that same system would, okay.
Yep.
It's a big investment, but
It is.
you guys, I think it's probably something, I mean, we need the news coming in out of our town,
It is a very good resource, in our opinion, to have, and we have already gotten some good results from just basically borrowing the information from other organizations that have that have caught crimes that have committed here, that they fled to their jurisdiction.
And the level of searchable data that it collects too is amazing. You can search for vehicle types and colors of vehicles, and you don't necessarily just have to have the plate number. If you have an incident that happened where somebody was harmed, and you have a description of a car, you can search that.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned grants just a moment ago. Last year, we started working on a grant called the SMART grant. Is that accurate? Is it called SMART grant? It really affected, I think it was underneath the previous Public Works Director. It really affected the technology that we could provide. Was it stoplights?
Well, I know we were folding some of that in under the SS4A grant.
Okay.
But there is a SMART, and I'm trying to remember, Smart City.
Yeah. Smart grant, something like that. I didn't know how that worked, because it was kind of in a transition period from Public Works Director to the interim one. So I didn't know what our status was on that one, and if it could affect a lot of the technology that we're bringing up now.
Yeah. And I think, Tom, I'm the same way.
We don't need it.
I want to know the timing of the grants before I make a decision about this, because it seems like this is something that Sedalia shouldn't fund if we're going to share all that data. This is more of a regional or a national. But what's the timing of the grants, Joe? I mean, what's the probability that we get them and then don't have to, then have the ability in this next fiscal year to use this money somewhere else?
One thing would be like that.
Do you have any idea at all how likely it would be, or Mayor?
I think the probability is very likely.
Yeah. The RSOC grant absolutely is very likely, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's something that they've been pushing.
And you know, depending on where it scores your guys' priorities, if you think of it in terms of, you know, the initiative, not where the funding's gonna come from, then, you know, if it scores high, we're gonna go look for the funding. You know, so again, it's going back to that process of, let's figure out what we wanna do and then how we wanna fund it, as opposed to what money do we have and how are we gonna spend it.
I think I'm saying the same thing. I want it, but I want to figure out how to fund it in a responsible way. I don't want to plan on it this year in the budget and then some other department or some other, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That, I'm asking that question because it affects how I'm going to prioritize this.
Any other questions, council? All right, moving along.
Our next slide is with the general fund is community development. One of their goals is to facilitate the ease of opening and sustaining businesses in Sedalia, and working with all those folks to bring not only businesses but retail and all the different aspects. And so they want to be that liaison between those groups to make sure that someone can bring something in here between all our different utilities and code and those types of things. Also, the grant focus is to increase grant support. Grants take a lot of resources and time. Having done a lot of them, you can spend a lot of time just filling out performance measures and your financial reports. So it does take a lot of time, and they've got to focus on that and have help with it. They continue with the retail recruitment, and so they're working on incoming prospects. That's a constant thing. We want to build our base to help with increasing our tax base. Obviously, if we increase our tax base, that helps us provide better services. Also, the downtown development with streetscape, wayfinding, and the Missouri Main Street program, continue that on. And then also work on our housing planning and development. If we encourage housing and we develop better housing on all different levels, we can help attract folks to live here, but also on a multifaceted approach with our retail and our housing and our jobs, that diversity is what's going to help our community grow. With that, of course, we've got to work with our infrastructure and keep our infrastructure prepared for that and have the capability of taking on that growth. And then, of course, with that, we want to encourage a healthy living. You know, some of the programs that we already have going with sidewalks and bike paths, continuing that, because that's another not only attractive things for people to come and live here, but it also helps our community be healthy. And when you, again, take that multifaceted approach, we can be more successful as a community. So their major initiatives look at new and continued special events in the historic downtown. We find those events continue to grow and grow, so it's a positive thing for not only the community, but also for the downtown area. Work with wayfinding, again, and reactivate and update our design. There's all different types of things that we've talked about, the ability to put signage and different things on social media all the way through internet sites, but also just good old-fashioned signs for folks to find the things that we have to offer in our community and the ease of finding them. You know, Google Maps can only get you so far in finding a location. Also in their plan and their presentation, and also was discussed earlier, was real estate management. As we work through cleaning up titles and properties, we have to manage that. Also, we have to market it to get it back out there to add value to our community, because that's ultimately our goal with that, is to add value back into the community. It coincides with a lot of the different programs with the three urban redevelopment plan, but it also coincides with just building our community and offering all different levels of housing for people in our community. So that urban redevelopment plan, we've moved to this phase of execution of the plan. And continuing on with the grants, and they're at the point of getting the the items and the contracts and things going, and to execute those and assist with the performance of the grant. Again, that does take a lot of time and effort, so it will be a process. So those grants are you guys are already familiar with in the eastern portion of Sedalia, and then the ARPA grant in the northern portion of Sedalia. I'll work on my words while you guys discuss things further.
Councilor Scott.
Yeah, so I heard you say you want to incentivize, development inside the city. Do we do any of that now? Someone comes to us and says, hey, we want to take 5 or 6 acres. There's spots inside the city, acres and acres inside the city limits that, we extend sewer lines all the way out, for instance, out to Fishers. But do we ever work with anybody that's actually trying to develop something inside the city limits of Sedalia? To that level?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't recall any.
Yeah, I mean, to a lesser degree,
It's a lesser degree, yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, we surround them with sewer, but they still got to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and that's why we don't see any development inside the city limits of Sedalia.
Yeah, we've done some, probably the most recent here is we've done some of this where the land bank and that whole concept of cleaning the titles and then making those developable again, and taking curing the economics of it, and we've taken some of those lots and we've actually given lots or given less or sold them for less than what we have in them to get them back to development and those kinds of things. And we put stipulations on them that they have to do a single family housing within a certain amount of time, or we get a clawback. And so we provide them that incentive with the strings attached and those kinds of things. We've also done through our public works, we've done some of those where we will help with the water and sewer mains, particularly if they're doing an addition, a full addition, where they're doing more than one. That the sewer and water's not already there. We will help them.
We'll run it down the street. They've got to worry about the connection from the street to the house. Yeah.
Plus,
I have an experience. I think we've done a great job with everything you explained, Kelvin. But in the Fourth Ward, there's several places where there's acres and acres and acres that could be developed inside the city limits, but we never see it get developed. So I'm just.
I think we have regular meetings with those developers. Some of those, we've tried to figure out what is it lacking, what do you need for the city to assist with. We do that on a regular basis with commercial properties, with retail, small retail development. You've got your downtown incentives also that assist the businesses. But, those acreages in the marketplace that are out there, we get regular calls, and we bring those incentive packages to you,
I'm not hearing
to
all
council.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So for the Fourth Ward, the thing that I think of is 20th Street, just south of 20th Street from Limit to Grand. And I know now that someone could develop that property.
Right.
We know that we can.
The UP property.
Yeah, the UP property, we know we can get. What can we do to get that amount of acreage going?
Yeah.
Can we provide some streets? Can we provide some curb? Can we provide some?
And that,
We've really got sewer there, don't we, and water?
and I think you see that with some of the other developers and other acreages where they come to you and say, hey, we want to do this, but we need the city's participation, such as Fisher's development, some others that we've dealt with.
Yeah.
But those are certainly on the table, and we have a financial incentive policy that's on the city's website and that the developers are aware of that explains what the city is willing to do, where our thresholds are, but we certainly want to work with those.
Yeah, and that property specifically, we have worked with the railroad trying to get, them to encourage to sell that and market it. And it is now, just recently, what was that, a couple weeks ago, I got to the right person again. And, we have the experience of dealing with the Sutherland's property and dealing with the railroad.
Yeah.
They move very slowly, but it is for sale now. We have gotten that word out to some developers. We've we've re-engaged them again on, hey, we really think that would be a great place for, housing addition, and yeah, what are the holes and what are the gaps, and we'll be glad to help.
And UP's ready to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's been important on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
But it took us a year to buy the Sutherland's property, and they were ready to get rid of it, too.
Right.
maybe we could incorporate a park in that area. Maybe we could do a little bit more than we normally do. That, I think, is one of the primary places in Sedalia where we need to start.
It would also be.
I'd rather see people there than going, and God bless Fisher for the work that he's done with that development. But we've got sewer, and we've got water, and we've got police there. We don't have it yet southwest of.
It might also be helpful to put a team together to say, okay, we're going to look at those raw lands. What do we want on them?
That'd be great, John.
And then create a strategy to find it. So, same as we do with our budget.
Yeah.
Define it and then go get it.
Yeah, okay.
Any other council discussion?
I have a question. The first statement we have here is facilitate the ease of opening and business in Sedalia. Jack and I are in First Ward. It's primarily retail, hospitality, industrial. I work heavily with Sedalia Main Street. I'm on the Economic Development Board. The number one call I get from a complaint is the time and the cost it takes to get building permits and construction fees and architect and engineering design. Can we speak towards what that process is, what that time frame is? Why is it taking so long at the moment? I'm hearing it takes several weeks to get a permit issued. And then if it is a severe issue, which unfortunately I'm hearing that it is, what can we do as a council to make sure that we can help you in that process so we can ease the opening and sustain business in Sedalia?
I'll probably share this question with Devin, but I think one of the things we need to also consider is creating that expectation with those businesses.
Okay.
But there is a process. There is a process that they need to go through. In the past, it might have been simpler and more casual, but there are formalities to opening a business that they have to build into their business models. And then, when we talk about developer friendly, one of those things is collecting the infrastructure and the people that need to be at the table to review the plans. But as far as, issuing permits and licenses, I mean, there is a certain amount of time that goes into that. And I'll let Devin speak to that, I think.
Yeah, and while you're passing the mic here, I will interject, some of those that I've looked into when I get those complaints, it's like they're comparing or they're including in their time frame time before they've even submitted plans to us. Mm-hmm. And so they're saying, well, it takes weeks to get a building permit. Well, but you just gave us the plans yesterday. Mm-hmm. We can't review them until we get them, Yeah. And so there's a little communication on that side, and we can do a lot better at marketing ourselves as, what is the process and helping guide them through the process and those kinds of things. But when I had those complaints and looked into them, it really wasn't what it was advertised to be in all cases. Mm-hmm. But we do, when we get the plans, we turn those around pretty routinely within 2 weeks, right? Now, when they have questions or concerns, that starts the clock over again, Mm-hmm. But it's in the architect's hands then of resolving that. Now, also, we have done some work with the design review committee, talking about how we approach that and how we can do better at how we say things and how we approach the discrepancies, and helping those developers or helping the architect answer the questions that we need to ensure the public safety. Did what I just say make any sense whatsoever?
Yes, it did. So I typically tell people that we have a review time of 2 to 3 weeks. Of course, that depends on the size of the plans. If you've got a plan set like the CAP building that's 200-300 pages, that takes a significant amount of time. And it's not just my department that's reviewing, it's fire department, public works. Sometimes it involves health department if it's a restaurant. So all of those different departments have to do their own individual review, collaborate together, get those comments back to that architect, and then it's up to him to do those revisions and get them back. And a lot of times it's that waiting period of design.
Maybe what I'm hearing from Tom, and this is just kind of a rhetorical question to staff, but what can council provide to staff in order to expedite that process? And maybe that's how we should.
Well, and moving towards this electronic plan review will definitely help with that, and we're in the process of that. But again, that takes, we want to make the best decisions possible on hardware and software.
How many plans do you think, building plans do you think you get in a month?
In a month?
Yeah.
So I ran this number, as we put up a list of new options. We did 169 new inspections occupied. Okay. So that is a brand new building coming in.
That's a brand new building coming in. That is a business who decides to move from one occupancy to another building. That is an occupancy who sells and a new ownership takes over. That takes that in as well. So that's not all brand new businesses, but that breaks down to 14 a month of new businesses that we are dealing with every month.
That sounds like it's a lot to handle for one person. Should council be looking at the second building and officials to help you with that? So you all can do planning. Okay.
We have 2 inspectors at the fire department that can do it. So one thing that you also need to take into consideration is, Better, please correct me if I'm wrong, we get a lot of first sets of plans. So we will get a civil and be told, hey, we need a fire code review of this, and basically all we have are 4 walls. And it's very hard to go, well, you need exit signs here, you need fire extinguishers here, when there is nothing but 4 walls to shell the building. And then we would have, our customers would come in and complain, well, we need to know what you're going to do in the building. Well, we don't know exactly what we're going to do in the building. Well, we have to have an idea to make a qualified review of that building. So, and also a lot depends on the quality of the architectural designs that we get. If we get a 1-page or, well, we've seen 2 pages. We've seen 2 pages of architectural design come in for a very large building, and there are 2 pages of documents on it, and that's it. There's no notes on it. There's no, hey, this is where this is going to be. It doesn't meet this. So we have to spend time then going over, okay, where the smoke detectors need to be, and we're basically doing the design and then sending those notes back to the business owner. Business owners then sending back to the architect, and that's where we lose a lot of time at, is incomplete, not sufficient kind of stuff.
So on the note, my final question of this, and I know it's more of a clarity and non-understanding. On the note of getting a business to do the architectural and the engineering plan. One of the most recent calls I had was a smaller business that just wanted to expand with a separate room, and was originally just going to cost her a fraction of the price. It was like $25,000 to $50,000. Came in, was told that she needed to get architecture and engineering plans, and now it has tripled the cost, and now she can't open up and expand her small business. How can we overcome that so we can have this small business, who's a staple in our community, be able to grow and bring in new clients? Help her with that, but still be able to have our architecture and engineering plans.
You can if you want.
Is there a division we can have with smaller square footage, smaller cost, versus larger industrial plans? Is there a difference?
So we have to base our review off of a stamped set of plans. So that we can do, and what that basically is that somebody's looked at this, and it's weight loads, load distributions, all of those things. And Councilman Bush, you can probably.
I'm about ready to come out of my chair, so go ahead and finish.
So,
This is not
how it's supposed to work at all, and it's not your fault, but.
So there are a lot of things. In Assembly, I think we have in plans to hire an engineer. Is that correct? Did we not do something where we were going to hire an engineer within the city?
For civil, yeah.
Okay, for civil. So the problem that we have is that if we allow somebody just to design a building or design a room, I'm not an engineer. I don't know if that is going to be safe to live in or be in.
Can I inject something?
Well, I'll say, I didn't spur those questions for council to have a 20-minute conversation. I wanted to be able to just get questions answered to see if we can budget things appropriately and get them to help the meeting.
I'll take 2 seconds.
Okay.
It comes down to this. There's conceptualization drawings, there's beginning drawings. At some point in time, there's documents for construction. Anytime you get anything that's other than a document for construction or for plan review, that then develops, you should send it back and say, we don't have it. You should not be designing where the fire extinguishers are. And I know you have to, right? And defense, you get in those situations, especially with smaller situations.
And I don't disagree with you on that at all. But the problem that we have is that if we get a document that's not sufficient and we send it back, then you will get the call, he will get the call.
Okay.
And then now that's the fire department or building a code or dragging their feet or they're not doing anything. And I am more than happy to do that, and we can do that.
You're right, Chief. I mean, I'll be more than happy to defend the longer process. If someone makes a mistake, it's not my problem if you make a mistake. There's some kind of
Yes.
right? Errors and omissions. You don't have errors and omissions. You're not an engineer. You said it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The actual design process from conceptualization to a plan set is for building, that is for construction, is a long, drawn-out process that involves things. And maybe we all need to understand that a little bit better and manage it and not feel bad if it takes more time for someone if they submit the wrong documents too early. And I've experienced that, and you're 100% right. And I'll stop in 1 minute. And then, you've already used your 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Get the 3-minute timer up. I've got 1 more minute. I've got one going. I'll finish. Last year, I advocated for $15,000 for electronic plan review.
Mm-hmm.
It has not been put in place. The biggest complaint I get is how much it costs a developer to go out and print plans for Sedalia when they don't have to do it anywhere else. I
don't disagree with you at all.
And I know you don't, and I'm just saying, I'm hot. We need to handle our plans with PDF files so that nothing else, you guys don't have to keep moving stuff between the fire department and downtown. And we can organize our plans and keep our documents better. For God's sakes, this year, get Bluebeam in place or Nitro in place, and you guys can all learn it quickly. It's not a big deal, and you will like it.
I'm all in favor for it. But to go back to answer your question, how can we fix that for the small business owner that needs architectural design that's just doing a room? I don't have an answer for you. I don't know how to fix that because I don't know how to do that and not assume the liability for the city if we make a mistake.
I think the conversation for policy and procedure for this comes at a different time, but I would like to say, can we start cultivating some ideas of how we can help our downtown and our small businesses?
And in answer to your question about how council can help, and I greatly appreciate that question, is help us communicate better, because I think a lot of this, as many times when there's disagreements or stress, if you will, it's communication. It's setting expectations and managing those expectations, and helping to guide the process and get it to staff. When you're hearing a complaint, get it to us so that we can dig into it and find out what the real issues are and how can we solve them. And we do take the process, we do need to get into that policy decision of you all, whether we want to get involved and help the architects get us what we need so that we can be that business friendly or not. But yeah, helping us communicate, helping us get those information or those complaints to it, get it to the right place so they can get solved. So, thank you.
Go ahead, Tina.
I just, not a discussion. I just want to plant a seed, perhaps to John or to Devin or to whomever. We are doing a lot of building of homes here in Sedalia. However, the major complaint that I'm receiving is that the homes are not affordable to those that make less than $35,000 a year. So they're beautiful homes, but they can't afford them. And so they're asking us, what are you going to do for us? How are you going to help us? Because we would like to own a home as well. And in that factor, you have to take into consideration what their credit scores are, because that has to be a certain number before you get anything. And so I would just like to plant that seed of us trying to figure out how can we help a group of individuals being overlooked for housing here in Sedalia due to their income and help them get into a place that they can afford. Like I said, we're building beautiful homes in beautiful places, but they can't afford them.
Yeah.
Previous amendments?
I think one of the things that the comprehensive plan pointed out was we are missing that middle housing. We are missing those multi-family units, townhouses, row houses that get those people into home ownership quicker with a lower income rather than a single family home sitting on a larger parcel. So how to do some economies of scale to get those folks into their own homes. I think we need to look at that. And then back to the business issue, we did just put on the website how to start a business in Sedalia. So it's a roadmap of what do you need to do, licensures, permits, dig right. I mean, everything is on there. It's a 10-page document on the website that walks you through Devin's department, the finance department. It lines out what a business person would need to do to start a business in Sedalia. So that's helpful too, and that's an education piece.
Yeah, as far as that education piece, that it outlines each step in order. So there's some of those steps, if you put where I'm going to put this business ahead of consulting with zoning or planning and zoning, see if this even works where it is. I mean, that will mess things up for you. So it's a very useful tool to put up there on the website.
You know, one thing we could do when we sell these individual lots that we have and turn them back over, we could incentivize it to some degree, Tina, if we said, if you'll, instead of a single family home, if you'll build a duplex, we'll give you $2,000 or $3,000 less off your lot. I mean, that, because I think of subsidized housing like out by Walmart and those types of things, but they don't own those homes. Those are rentals. So that's what you want, home ownership, right?
Correct.
So let's start to try to figure out a way to subsidize that or incentivize that. And one easy way would just be able to, when we sell those lots and they're going to build a single family home, maybe we could get them to build a duplex.
If you will, we'll have some more on that in a later slide.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and move this along.
Do you want to take a break?
Does everybody need a break, or you want to keep going? All right, let's do a 15-minute break.
Sorry for asking so many questions.
No, that's,
I just want to make sure you get what you need.
I'm sorry.
no,
I'm sorry.
seriously, that's what this is intended to be. So.
You're just stuck. They don't look in the I think the biggest thing that we need to
Oh, I did too. That's what I did. Oh boy, here we go now. What the hell is this? The whole rest of the damn day. You know, I did 2 years on that. What's that tell you? Look for this, boy, we spent that.
maybe I did my part, I stayed out of the way. I didn't eat them all. It's one I don't weigh 400 pounds. Hey, Amy. Hey, Amy.
They said that Chelsea and Jones might play to get their milestones, and then they'll be good.
Hey, Amy.
No, as far as I know, they're playing all back. They should.
Kelsey's probably gonna play to get through 16 yards. Jones, they may not let him play because that's $1 million bonus.
Well, but I think they want him to go ahead and get that million.
Well, they want him to take care of that groin.
Yeah, but because they said last night that Kelsey and him may play just to get what they need, and then they're out.
There's no guarantee that he's gonna get a sack.
All he needs is a half a sack. Yeah. So, but I still wouldn't sign him for next year. I'd do the same deal next year as I did this year for 1 more year. Or I'd say bye.
I'd say bye. Get somebody good.
Go fast, his head.
Hey, Amy. Amy F.
No, they just kind of
gave him a deal, then they gave him incentives. I mean,
Ready to go home then?
yeah. I was doing fine. He's done a little bit, but nothing. There's several of those players I get rid of. But, I mean, they don't need to play anybody. It don't matter. They are what they're going to be. But we need Buffalo to lose. We do not want to play the Bills. They are playing a really good football league right now. They are dangerous. Buffalo plays Miami.
Tax credits are
In
listed.
Miami for the AFC East. Buffalo beats Miami, they flip-flop plays. Buffalo goes to 2, Miami goes to 6. Miami wins, they stay at 2, but then it depends on if Pittsburgh wins today, and if Jacksonville wins tomorrow, and Buffalo is totally out.
That's what I hope. That's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Circle Street?
Oh, God. Where that's not north end.
Then we will put it out, see if we get it for now.
Oh, man. I don't know why I sat down. Huh? I don't know why I sat down. I need to stand up while I can.
We're right halfway through this part of it. But the rest of them should be short.
This idea the other night at 3 a.m. To throw this thing together, because I've got all the guidelines and everything from the website to throw this together. And I want to see how it compares. If I can get John to give me one of the ones he's already reviewed, feed it to him, and then see if it captures all the errors, the feedback. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, just a little project that we're playing with.
You're gonna have that.
We'll see. We'll see if it works.
I still want you to show me how the basics.
You got to set up now to where you're using AI to create AI.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Because I mean, that's what I'm using here to do. You know where to build the thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Tom, how are you, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Holding on to that.
You get your boot down now, huh?
Yeah. No.
Oh, real? That's good, right? Good.
It looks different. I just brought it up. It looks different, but it's you've made my life kind of bad, and I usually see it. I'll take. Oh, it's probably to the camera. Yeah, but, I mean, I usually have another go-to meeting screen open. It's recording, and that's what it's recording. It was okay. How long will it take to reboot, you think? Okay. So I'll just, so do you want to reboot and then I shut down, go to and bring it back up, or do you want me to shut it down, you reboot, and then bring it all back up? Oh my God. Okay, I think I got it.
Preliminary ranking of these items, because they've got a different draft overview of all the projects.
I get on when I get really loud.
25. About 2 minutes.
And this is because we still have months worth of this project.
I've been playing with it. We got up at 3 a.m. A couple days ago. Curious about it. You should be able to see it. Now, critique that. Okay. I know. You made it. Oh, yeah, it's about, he's worried about this. I'm gonna time you this, so I can just talk to the mayor about it, and all that. Now. That's why we like it. I just need something. Oh, yeah. What I told you about. I know that's what I can build something, but I don't know what, but the city should make them be enough stuff. But that's so. Should go ahead and produce the language and everything. Told us. Good. Yeah. See me Monday. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Boy, could we put a job to take all that out. What do you think? I know what it is. And then, you know, put that wall back here. That part, Gary Roll?
That's what I said, the difference, sidewalk out and move the wall back.
Yeah.
My boy's not in.
Slam your gavel.
Matt, you want your mic go? Ready to gavel.
I'll go ahead and get my gavel. All right, we'll go ahead and bring this back to order and get back on track.
Testing.
Assistant City Administrator Work, you have the floor.
That was one of my tricks. I'll do some more later at the break. Okay, we're gonna get started again. So we were talking about community development. We're moving on to code enforcement. So part of what code enforcement does, and we'll talk about their major initiatives, is conducting all the building inspections and the plan reviews and engage builders to follow building codes. We've already had a little bit of discussion about how important that is. Of course, it's to ensure the safety of the community through that code administration. Without those, we risk the lives of our citizens, and if it's a business, the customers. If it's a fire or some sort of emergency response, we're risking our own folks to go in there. So we want to make sure that those are up to date, and we've already had discussion about the ability to make things easier. So that leads into the process of implementing electronic plan review to streamline that process for this next year. Some of the major initiatives is to conduct that downtown commercial district inspections with the foundations to make sure that we can prevent any things like we've seen in the past where buildings have fallen down or collapsed. We also want to work with citizens to achieve voluntary compliance. We've gotten a lot of the, in a sense, low-hanging fruit of some of the structures that were significantly in disrepair, taken down. So we're moving more to the ability to achieve voluntary compliance. And that is ultimately the goal, is to get the community to comply and understand the regulations that we have and the code that we have to make things safer. And also it improves each neighborhood. If everybody has a good neighbor, we've got a good neighborhood. We also want to incentivize our training to promote and retain certified staff. The other day, one of the members got a further certification. So with those certifications, of course, comes knowledge and the ability to do their job better. And when they have that knowledge, they can also be more of an asset to the folks that they're dealing with, to be able to help guide them through whatever process it is, whether it's building something or knowing how to maintain their property. And then their final initiative is to collect tax assessments from those non-compliant properties. There is a significant amount of folks that haven't paid for those tax assessments, so they're still working on trying to bring those in. And then, of course, we continue to work on that property and keeping towards cleaning them up. But we've had some discussions about making improvements with some of the structures and projects to do some of what you guys have already discussed with helping folks get their houses fixed and be a better neighbor.
I have a question about code enforcement. Do we need more code enforcement people?
At this point, I don't think so. We have one officer per ward. We have roughly around 600 cases continually, which is, I feel like, a good number.
Yeah. I just noticed that we're still having problems with the trash cans. People are not putting them in the proper places.
Yep, we're tagging those, and then if they are repeat offenders, we've been citing them for it.
Thank you.
Anything else, Council?
We'll talk a little bit in some of our other aspects of some of the ideas with the trash service and in reducing the size of cans. Moving on to the general fund with cemetery. Of course, their services involve the casket and the cremation and the in-ground and the other markers and things like that. They do set military markers, which of course is a honorable thing to do for the community, to honor those that have served in our military and have that recognition for them. They're also overseeing all the monument setting there and the ground maintenance. They have over 70 acres, so of course that takes a lot to take care of. They do lease some of that out for hay. Their major initiatives are they're seeing a trend towards cremation. So they want to, obviously we want to provide that service to the community because that's the trend that we're seeing. The city purchased property that is west and behind the housing authority, so it's west of the cemetery. So continue to clear and reclaim that property to make a nicer area for that to add cremation sites. So not only through that area, but the other unused areas, to plot some new roads and make it easier to sell those lots and to make use of that property. We do have some issues that we've got to be concerned and responsible with the water flow and how it drains So we've got to take that into consideration of how we plot it out. Mr. Waters has recommended a committal service shelter for those cremations and in that area to be able to have basically a place to have the service, since it is a little bit different type of service with a cremation. But it gives a nice little place that people can have a service, possibly, you know, out of the sun and things like that or possibly during bad weather.
Question on the committal service shelter, to Walter. Could that also be used for the in-ground services as well? The casket, because I know going out there and sitting with the chairs on the ground.
Absolutely.
For 100 pounds, you're going to sink into the ground and stuff.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a wonderful thing.
It just was this week. We've had a really rough week this week. We had a service that is in a low area in the cemetery that we had a lot of collapsing around the grave site this week, which basically, we, for the first time that I've been there in over 14 years, we roped off an area to where family could not even get near the grave site. Safety issue was foremost to protect not only our workers, but the public that we're serving, the families. So yes, this would be something that, we've got a service schedule for Tuesday this week. I don't know if you paid any attention to the weather, which we watch constantly, that we're calling for 40-mile-an-hour winds. We can't set a tent up in 40-mile-an-hour winds. If we had a committal shelter, this burial could, you know, proceed on. At this point, it's still in limbo whether we do it Tuesday or not. So that would help greatly.
Roger, you normally ask for a columbarium. You had last couple of years. We don't have one on the ranking this year. Do we have enough space, or do we need to prepare for that?
No, the last columbarium that we put in, we currently have sold like 5 or 6 out of that 64 niche model that just went in the last week of March in 23. So no, at this point we're in good shape, but you know, we'll look at it probably in the next year, see where we're at. We've sold 17 niches this year that was in the last unit and then this new unit. So basically it takes a year to get one of them in here in place. So I think we're at the point right now, unless something changes dramatically, probably another year out, we'll plan it again and move forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Council?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank Roger for taking care of the citizens, you know, providing them safety, not letting them get that. Yeah, I know it's a bad deal that they couldn't get by their loved one, but you know, you put their health and welfare in front of what should be. So thanks again for doing that.
Okay, we'll move on next to our, went a little too far. Still in the general fund, animal control. Animal control helps our animals and citizens coexist. We want to encourage responsible pet ownership, also part of that good neighbor program in a sense, and protect citizens from other pets. Sometimes that's, we don't think about that aspect of it, but is to provide that service to the community. We've had discussions about wanting to increase that service to the community and add our ability to provide more control, which is more protection. They have used have the use of electronic citations to streamline the ticketing process. I looked at that this morning with the presentation, and that has increased. One of the other things to encourage responsible pet ownership is what's still, it's been pretty much done, and I think there's a couple of little things that the attorneys have decided to clean up, but is that revision of the animal code to encourage increased compliance. You know, it's in the discussion in the beginning too this morning about how that has gone, because that code had gotten aged and needed improvement. Continue with the walking trail to provide exercise for our pets and owners. That goes back to that good community of keep getting the ability for folks to exercise, but also folks to get out and exercise their pets. It also allows a trail there close to the animal shelter for volunteers to go out and walk animals within the shelter. And there's a few things that need to be done with some erosion control and retaining walls to help that process along the way. That is one of the major initiatives. Also, one of the major initiatives is the adding an animal control officer. That discussion has involved needing more hours in the day of coverage. Currently, they're trying to staff it 6 days a week for about 4 hours because there's a lot of other responsibilities within the shelter. So if we look at adding another person, that would provide more coverage throughout the day. It also allows for more, obviously with one more person, we have the ability to call them out to handle emergencies because it's more than one person that's able to respond. That additional staffing helps with the why because it provides a better service to our community. With that, we have currently, if we have a second officer, we do have the need for an additional vehicle. The older vehicle that we have is not very reliable, and there are times that they do transport animals to be spay and neutered while they're out on patrol. Again, the trail improvements, but we want to also encourage low-cost spay and neuter. Ms. Batson has been working with the local vet as it's changed to ensure that contract, but also provide that service. That's very important to the control portion of animal control in the community. In responsible pet ownership is the ability to spay and neuter animals to prevent overpopulation.
Any questions, Council?
Is that added truck for animal control officer, is that an outfitted truck with major,
That's the entire truck and the box and everything, yes.
and everything?
Do you have the average monthly number of tickets issued prior to e-ticketing and then post moving to e-ticketing by chance?
I just noticed there was a significant number from last year to this year increase.
I know that Troy wrote over 160 tickets this year alone. That's not including the other animal control officer, which she did not write near as many, as she's not on patrol nearly as often. But it was a significant increase by having him have access to that e-ticketing.
So this would add a third animal control officer?
So this essentially, it would be an added position, but what we would do is be able to have 2 animal control officers on the same day. Currently, we just have 1 animal control officer per day. We provide animal control services 7 days a week. We provide them regularly 6 days, plus after-hour calls or emergency calls, but on Saturday, we still respond to emergencies on Saturday. So this would enable us to provide that service far more regularly. The other employee is part-time animal control, part-time shelter, so that we have enough people to cover both areas.
My dogs love to get out, so if you catch them, you can keep them.
Councilman Cross?
Yes. Do they do spay and neuter services at the animal control?
What do you mean by that? Do we do them, or do we do not do any spaying and neutering. We don't have a veterinarian on staff. We have had a contract with the spay and neuter clinic for the last several years. So we transport our animals daily over to the spay and neuter clinic on Main Street and have the services performed there, and then they transport them back to us at the end of the day.
That was brought up one time about hiring a veterinarian at the animal shelter.
Yes.
How did that go?
I put that on our radar because I wasn't sure where things would go once the previous owner of the spay and neuter clinic was no longer there. And at this point in time, I believe that the sale is final and that the new owner will continue to provide those services for our community and for the shelter. So I can't justify that need for our shelter at this point. If it becomes an issue in the future, that's something I would certainly bring to council again, because as Mr. Wirt said, that's an extremely important service for our community to help prevent the overpopulation.
Any other questions, council? All right, we'll move along.
Continuing with, or actually moving over to the transportation fund with the airport. As you know, they provide a local commerce and air transportation operation. It's essential to our economic and growth. It's about a $3.6 million impact. 11,000 operations is the average per year. You know, it's always surprising to see that number because you don't think about that, but there's a lot of our companies in our community that rely on it. I spent some time out there the other day, and there's a lot of pilots that stop off to get fuel. You don't think about that yes, an airplane has to land and get fuel on a trip that across town or across the country, just like a car does. They offer fuel and repair and maintenance service. They're getting pretty in depth with that, and that's a good service and brings us up a level. But it also gets attention from around the Midwest that we have the ability to do that, and gets our name out there. The major initiatives are kind of divided into two groups. The first group is our grant-based one. So we're looking at rehabilitating the North Parallel Taxiway. This was brought up in Mr. Dotson's presentation, and we can get a lot of that funded through grants. That northern 500 feet of runway, that's the 1836 runway. We also have to do an environmental assessment of the wetlands for a future parallel taxiway. Those things, you know, we're required to do, and it's also responsible for us to take care of our land and our airport. But it gives us the ability to plan that next project and that next phase. A couple of the other projects that he has proposed is upgrade the fuel farm to state regulations. We want to follow all the rules and regulations that we have, and that is going to require a few things. Also, some new signs for the airport as those age. We want to look up to date and modern, but also have everything clearly marked. Maybe some no trespassing signs as well. Some of the problems we've had. And one of the things that has been discussed over the last couple of years is remodeling that old terminal building to provide overnight lodging. It does provide use of the building, and also provides a service to pilots coming in, and maybe gets us on the radar for more people to stop in and stay and visit our community. We also want to move this to an enterprise fund with operations that are self-sustaining, as the ability to sell fuel and things like that is increased, but also with the maintenance and the skills that Mr. Dotson has, we're bringing in revenue that we hope to try to make this a self-sustaining fund to be able to fund itself, which is a very positive thing to move us towards that direction.
And that's why you don't see it on your score sheets. It will be a separate fund, so much like our water and wastewater and sanitation funds, it'll all be encapsulated within it. So when you get to your budget work session, you'll have items there, but it's not competing with other departments for funding, so that's why we didn't put it on the scoring sheet. So it's not that we're not going to do them, it's just that it's not competing anymore. Very nice.
What's the timing on it becoming an enterprise fund? It's not yet.
This fiscal year.
This fiscal year, okay?
Yeah. So Jessica's got it set up, working on that to get it set up, and so this upcoming fiscal year it will be set up as.
That's a heck of a accomplishment.
Any other council questions?
Okay, so also in the transportation fund, the street department, we've got things listed out in the score sheet for pavement and roadway improvements that you can score on that without going through every specific project. You can look at that in your score sheet. But one of the main topics to discuss today is the pavement management. Mr. Davies discussed this in depth on how this works during his presentation. But it allows us to develop a plan to improve the overall condition and level of service of our street network with a fiscally efficient manner, and we want it to be sustainable. So one of the things that when they go out and they look at a roadway right now, we bring up core samples. That's just a small section of the roadway. A lot of times in that core sample, you find something good. A lot of times you find something bad, where there's maybe been a Band-Aid put over the road or something like that with just something simple. but it does not give you the ability to see what that entire street or that overall structure of that roadway or the condition that it's in. This program and the software allows us to literally get a picture of what that roadway surface and the condition it is. So we can provide the ability to implement an engineered system that includes condition inspection and condition prediction. So then we can develop a repair and maintenance strategy to optimize spending. Sometimes you might take a core sample that makes it look like that road's bad. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this gives us a very scientific approach to it. Of course, which the hope is that we save a lot of money on cost, but it also gives us a very specific locations that we can replace our roads and gain a better understanding of the underlying problems and provide recommendations based on actual conditions. We do our best right now to use to look at the arterial roads and decide what we're going to repave or what we're going to have to rebuild. This gives us an in-depth, literally further depth down to understand what that base and sub-base and that condition of those.
So is it something other than software?
It's actually a scan. I'll let.
Testing equipment?
Well, it's the contract with a company that does the testing.
Okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah, but my understanding is they actually.
Contract with somebody else.
Yeah, they'll actually scan the roadway. Yeah, and then we will use the software to be able to look at those results. Am I speaking of that correctly?
Okay, thank you.
Any other council questions regarding that?
Is that the final, sheet for the transportation fund?
Is that our final slide, you mean?
Final slide, good. Okay, I'll.
One more.
add it into the transportation.
Okay. I just to finish off, there's really no major initiatives other than continuing using the millings in alley for just to resurface those. You know, that's a good use of our millings to put them back and to use them. It's literally a recycling project. It's great. It's been working so good so far that I understand. Mr. Bray has used the old laydown machine, so we've used another piece of equipment that wasn't quite as good as it could be to lay asphalt, but it's laying down the millings in the alleys. So we're reclaiming some of that and working on that to improve that. There is 159 miles of alley, but I know we've had a lot of complaints about alley and the condition that they're in. Right, and this does provide a good way to fix them without not a lot of cost. And they also continue the right-of-way mowing and maintenance. You know, we have a considerable amount of properties that they take care of and maintain. So we watch that equipment and look for a replacement program.
Justin, just to refresh my memory, if we turn those millings back in, we get like $4 per ton credit, but aggregate costs us.
Right now, we get $2 per ton from the plant, and if we were to buy number one base, it's $10.50 a ton.
Yeah, base rock, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So instead of paying $10.50 for rock to put in our alleys, we're foregoing $2 a ton for these millings, and so it's cheaper and better. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Any other council questions regarding this slide?
I've got one more for Chris, just to sign up. So the $185,000, how much of that is software and how much of that is a one-time scan? Or do they have to continually come back and scan, or is there a scanning contract, a one-time thing?
Thank you. So the initial 185 is to do the initial assessment, and then depending on how the city wants to move forward with it, you can do one of two things. One is you could have somebody on staff start learning that process so that over time, that staff person can do all the assessment of all the roads, or you can continue to use a company to do the assessment. It's not going to cost that 185 because they've already done it. But my recommendation would be that you initially do the 185 and maybe phase that contractor out over time and have a staff person doing that work so that you continually update your system.
Okay, but my understanding was part of that 185 was the software to analyze the data that comes from the scan.
That is correct. So they analyze,
My question is, how much of that is software and how much of it is, or do you have any idea? I don't wanna ask you a question.
I don't have an answer to that,
Okay.
Counselor.
But it,
The software was pretty minimal though, wasn't it?
That is correct.
okay.
I want to say like $10,000 maybe.
I don't know exactly, but
Well, it doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah. Ballpark.
A WAG,
$20,000,
a WAG is fine.
close enough, 20,000.
It's more than one and less than a million.
Further, we'll go ahead and move on.
Did I hear that right, that the 185 includes the position, the contractor, or the staff?
It's the contract and software.
Contract and stuff.
Yeah. So then, and part of our restructuring of the public works, we were looking at, some techs and so really we're looking at transitioning that to our project manager positions, tech positions. But we can't, you know, they're already full-time, so, generating that and getting it one time, all of them assessed is not gonna be possible. It'd take us decades to get it done. So then if we bring somebody in to do it once, then keeping it updated is much easier. And, you have to update it with additional wear, reassessments, and then also as we repave, it changes that. So we mill and overlay, you gotta change the status of that road. So, am I saying that right?
I mean, the end result is a map of the city of Sedalia every year that shows our most cost-effective places to invest our pavement. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct. So the end product basically is gonna show you, I guess if you look at it from a standpoint of a GIS map, and depending on color, so if you use.
An Excel spreadsheet, I don't care.
Well, that's true. Typically, it's presented in a GIS map so that the good roads are blue and reds are failing, and you can look at it very easily and see what's going on.
Okay.
Just a thank you to Justin and crew. I know over in Ward number 2, you've done a couple of alley praise with the millings, and people are thrilled with it. They prefer that to the rock and what we were doing before, so thank you for doing that.
All right, let's move along.
Okay. Next is the Parks and Recreation Fund. It provides programs and facilities that enhance quality of life. It goes back to that why, because it definitely provides exercise and a great asset to our community. Some of their top accomplishments was the award of the Liberty Park Stadium grant. I know that Ms. Epley and Mr. Simmons worked very hard on this, and it's going to add a lot of value to our community, and takes pride in an older structure in our community and brings it back to life. There's the expansion of the Liberty Lights. The Hecker Community Center numbers continue to increase. One of our examples was the classes were getting to be too large to just have one, and they were going to have to start splitting classes up. They completed phase 1 of the LED lights in the park, art additions in the park, over 20 new programs added. They planted over 100 trees, and they continue to increase that program participation. The plans for 2024 is to break ground on the new aquatic facility, which will add a lot of value and a pretty great asset to that central and east side of Sedalia on a piece of property that has been a struggle. There's also the Liberty Train that is going to be up and running, and I believe that was planned for February to arrive. Yeah. So that'll be awesome to bring that back to the park for kids to remember, like people like me remember riding it around as a little one. The expansion of the Liberty Lights Phase 5, which is a big addition. The Liberty Stadium improvements, they hope that is complete this year. And then also the playground at Liberty Park and a playground at Katy Park. And then Liberty Park Boulevard, more parking. If you remember, there was some water issues there that need to be rectified, but also to add more parking space for that area, which is a challenge and quite a walk if you do want to park in some of the other areas. and continue with actually have some improvements to Convention Hall. She also dispelled the rumor that that building might be no longer, but it's another one of those assets of not only the community but to the park system. And then add a program director as all the programs grow and continue to improve. There's lots of things to do and the need for that, and also a grant facilitator. Again, we've had discussion of other grants and how much time and effort it takes to facilitate a grant. And when you've got some grants the size they do, having an extra person is very valuable.
Question, Council?
I remember early in my first term, talking to Director Epley about adding security cameras to our parks. And if I recall correctly at the time, it was going to cost several $100,000, if not millions. We're allocating $50,000 for, 10 cameras for our neighborhood, 360 cameras. Is there something that we can do, or does Parks and Rec have something planned to where we can expand that and get security cameras in our parks?
Yeah, so we actually this week have been meeting. Katy Park is going to be the first park that we install cameras. Our costs have actually estimates have came in lower than what we've expected. But that will be, and actually will be, if our budget continues to be what it is this year, we'll continue to install that before the end of this fiscal year and continue adding one park each year.
One park each year?
Correct.
I feel like the neighborhood 360 cost is quite minimal for us. Is there something that we can do as a council to get them more cameras? And I don't know if that puts too much of a time crunch on you or too much of a strain on you, but to get them the cameras they need. What are our thoughts on that, council? Great. So, okay, we're allocating $50,000 for cameras, for 10 cameras for the police department for our neighborhood.
I get that.
They need security cameras in their parks. The cost is minimal, I feel it is, for 10 cameras. Can we add a little bit more to this, get more cameras, and put them in our parks?
How much would it cost to get those cameras?
Let's go with the park.
That you're talking about, Amy?
Maybe it would be best, Councilman Oldham, to handle that as a budget amendment later in the year. That's something that the council.
And that's something I can continue to share what we're doing, and if there's anything that I will stress the one thing, I feel like the parks in the city, I know we're kind of separate, but we are one. But we do collaborate really well with all the other departments of working in different things like that. So, and that's one thing, our numbers came down a little bit lower because of the security that we have at the Heckert. We're able to kind of push that into the parks instead of doing something completely new. We already have the system, and we can access everything. So that's something I can continue to update you guys and let you guys know where we're at, but I appreciate that.
Nope, I appreciate it. Thank you for that direction.
Anything else, Council?
I looked at the non-Oxford facility that we're adding. There's a lot, golly, it's amazing. Yeah, I went up there last night. It's still on? Yeah.
Okay.
Till this weekend. Okay, great, thanks.
All right, let's move along.
Okay. The Water Pollution Control Fund. So they treat about 1.7 billion gallons of wastewater per year. We're going to go straight into major initiatives because this is going to be a big part of the next few years of budgeting. The implementation of stormwater and pollution control management. You know, we have in a sense, a specialist that's working on that right now. That's important to make sure that our stormwater is not polluted. So she works on everything from figuring out what drainage might come away from a dumpster to all different sides of that. It definitely is a good side to the environment in improving that. We also have a pre-treatment specialist, and she's working with some of the businesses and portions of our city that add things to the sewer just by a byproduct of what they produce that is causing some different chemicals to be in our treatment plant. So she works with trying to stop that problem before it gets there. This program really helps out our treatment and the cost of our treatment to work with those folks right off the bat and get that taken care of before it gets into even the system. It's that good old-fashioned saying of 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We also need to really look at a reduction of inflow and infiltration into our treatment facilities. Mr. Davies and I were speaking the other day, and on a basically a dry day, about 4 million gallons of waste goes into the plant. On a rainy day, change that to 40 million gallons that can go into a plant. So we've got a lot of inflow and infiltration into our system. There's a lot of different reasons for that. So we've got to start and move towards a program that's going to really reduce that. Obviously, that reduces our inflow and what level of treatment we need at the plant. But there's a good chance that that's a pipe issue and maybe some design issues from the olden days. To break it up by plant, the central plant is that RFQ has been announced and is out right now to rehab that facility and do quite a bit of work. And this part of it of improving this and this process is really going to help generations to come by taking the steps to improve it. We are going to use a design build concept to work with an engineering firm to get that process done. It will take several years, and it is quite a commitment, but it is, again, making an improvement for generations to come. The north plant, that'll continue until we have the central plant completed, and then it will close, and we will redirect the flow from the central or to the central plant. We also have the implementation of the utilities director to make it more efficient on all utilities working together in cross-training for maintenance and emergency repairs. We hope that, definitely building a team not only with it in this, but also all our departments to work together and take advantage of their skills to help each other out on a daily basis. But this is it is bringing those departments together under that utilities director.
Council question? All right, we'll go ahead and move along.
Okay, the water department fund, they provide about 920.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I thought we were going to continue with wastewater or stormwater. Where's 36 million gallons coming from on a rainy day? We had a substantial program before I was on council. The major part of that project was putting a line underneath the railroad tracks to the north. But my recollection is Sedalia went through a pretty substantial process of putting off smoke grenades in the Blackwater sewer line and seeing smoke coming out of the gutters, which should be the stormwater sewer. And I thought we had addressed this to some degree, but apparently we haven't.
I'm sure we do.
Do we have any idea where this additional, Chris, do you got any idea? Do we need another engineering study?
I don't think the city needs another engineering study. So I'm somewhat familiar with what happened in the past. I know that a smoke study was done for the city. I can't tell you at this point because I haven't looked at all the data whether all those connections were disconnected or corrected. I can't tell you that. I know portions of them were. But you also have a lot of old pipes that are cracked, and that's where the infiltration is coming from.
It's infiltration, but you think that all the old stormwater, there was a major project for downtown, tens of millions of dollars.
I would direct Councilman Bliss to the wastewater master plan that we developed. I believe that was presented by Burns McDonald, was that last year? And it identified those areas in which those wastewater pipes, we were receiving inflow and infiltration, and those were going to be addressed.
Okay.
Anything else? All right.
Water department fund, 920 million gallons of drinking water. We've got to continue with our lead inventory and meeting the federal requirements. We continue to extend services, providing services to those areas of growth. Obviously a good thing, but it does cost us a little bit of money, and it's building that infrastructure. So some of their major initiatives is an antenna replacement. As you guys know, the water meters report, in the sense they're a radio signal to radio antennas that are at the east and the west water towers, and those antennas provide that water usage for billing. If those antennas don't work, our bills aren't right, and we have a problem, or if they don't report, they have to send someone out to start manually checking the meters. Those antennas have far exceeded their life expectancy, like several years, so we've gotten our value and our money out of them. but they do need to be replaced and upgraded. We also have about 2,000 water meters that have exceeded their life, and they are failing, and we're having to send folks out to read those. We want to be accurate in our billing and correct in our billing, so we want to make sure that we have quality meters there, and don't require a manual reading, because that was part of the whole program, is to speed that process up and make that process efficient.
Any council discussion regarding that?
Okay, sanitation and recycling. So the services are collect residential solid waste. So some of the major initiatives with this is the equipment replacements. We have already accelerated that due to an accident and some other failures within the equipment. We'll continue to look at building a plan to rotate our replacement to make it efficient in the amount of money, because those trucks are very expensive and those items are expensive, but we are putting together a plan to make sure that we're have quality and reliable vehicles to pick up trash. We're also looking at moving to a volume-based fee system to provide rate structure based on use. You know, a lot of times someone has a small can and that's all they put out, and then someone maybe has several cans. So, but we're charging a very similar rate for all of that. So we're looking at reducing that price, especially for someone that may be just a single elderly person. They're putting out one bag of garbage a week compared to a family that's generating, like mine, generating a dumpster full. So, you know, you look at that structure is appropriate for it, and that's ultimately what we're paying to have the trash taken to the landfill. So we establish those rates to match cost, and creating a true enterprise fund, of course, is our goal.
Any council questions on this slide?
I guess on the second, both of their major initiatives, I'd like to see some type of recycling worded into that too. We need to at least look at some type, even if it's not mixed recycling, some kind of plan for some kind of single-use recycling. We need to continue to make an effort to recycle.
Yeah, and that is folded in, and we are working on that it's folded in the volume-based trash. So that will create the incentives for people to keep things out of the trash. And right now, it's a disincentive to recycle, because it's just easier for them to just throw it all in the trash.
Well, that's why I support the volume-based system. It makes a lot of sense.
So it's all intertwined. So yes.
Okay, but I just want recycling or something. I want to make a dish. Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of that portion of the presentation.
All right. Let's see, we had scheduled a break. We've already taken that. We'll go ahead and move along to the development strategies and key focus. Administrator Shaw, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. And you know, just to ease everybody's concern on the schedule here, that the time that I've got built in after this presentation is the time that we're already doing. Actually, I would prefer those conversations happening while we're going through it, so that it's fresh on everybody's mind. So we are not in trouble on the schedule, and I will go through this and really go through it quick. But again, don't hesitate to bring up your questions, comments, any of those kinds of things. So as we go through each of the departments, there are a few things that I see that are kind of overarching, affecting all departments and our overall strategy, if you will, for the city. One is we are all dealing with in each of the departments, and it kind of came out in the discussion about how we're using the marijuana tax and all of that. The staffing, inflation, and supply chain issues that we've been dealing with since the start of COVID. At the start of COVID, we had what we called the Great Resignation, and since then we continue to have baby boomers retiring at a faster rate than we have people entering the job market. So that creates additional strains on the economy, that creates wage inflation that we're still dealing with. the, to cool the inflation, the Feds, as you all know, have raised the discount rate 6 or 7 times, and the last couple of meetings, or last 3 meetings, I think, they've stayed on the sidelines, but still, they're putting pressure on the economy, trying to cool the economy, while the baby boomers, excuse me, baby boomers retiring has put what pressure on the labor market to continue wage inflation. So we consequently for the Feds, and then the market has been pricing in what they think are going to be, ultimately they're going to start lowering the discount rate again. So we've had this inverted yield curve for treasuries. It has been as inverted or more inverted than is in the past, and it has never been inverted this long that I'm aware of. The wages in the third quarter is still at 4.3% year-over-year increase, and so that continues to put that upward pressure on inflation. However, we have made progress to where we are actually down to 1.3 jobs per job seeker, according to the last information that I saw published. It, at one time in 2021, we had two jobs open for every person that was looking for a job. So there's no wonder why people weren't throwing money at it to try to get employees. At this time last year, I look back at the slide that we prepared for you last year, we were at 1.7. So they've made some progress, but we've made more progress this year. So hopefully that will put a damper on the wage inflation, and actually you've seen that it has. Last year we were looking at about almost 6% year-over-year increases in the average wages, but now we're at 4.3. And I just saw one actually yesterday, and I didn't get the slide updated, that it was actually under 4 now in the latest report. The economy, though, is still growing. Quarter 3 GDP was at a 5.2% increase, and the fourth quarter information is not out yet, but forecasts are it's going to be a little less than that, but still that's pretty healthy growth in the economy. That is being fueled by consumer spending being still strong, and really it kind of is, everything that I read is kind of has the Feds perplexed on, they keep raising the discount rate, but people keep spending at a higher level, and so they're trying to cool down the economy, but the economy keeps being supported by this strong consumer spending, which really has been happening by the savings. There was a lot of pent-up demand that was created during the shutdown during COVID, and the economists that I've been reading have been saying they thought that would have been long past, but they're still finding the money from somewhere and still spending down their savings.
They're not borrowing it, are they?
Well, no, they are borrowing it. Yeah. Consumer debt is now, oh goodness, I think it was almost $2 trillion now. So the debt, the credit card debt, and that's where the Feds hope that their increase will slow it down. Is you make that borrowing more expensive, then at some point they can't borrow anymore. So that's the thought. However, another thing that I've seen some people report, and I've always asked this question, the federal government keeps dumping more and more money into the economy. So we have, the Feds at the federal banking deal trying to raise rates to cool the economy, yet the other side of the government is putting more and more money in it that's increasing it. So at some point, something's got to break. Of course, the supply chain is still challenged, as we talked in some of those presentations. It takes 3 years now to get a fire truck, all of those things. And so So some of these creating these challenges, as what it means to us as far as the overall economy. The supply chain challenges means we're buying used equipment in many cases, and then used and new, we're keeping assets longer. We continue to have staffing shortages. We are trying to keep up with the wage inflation. The wages are also growing faster than the revenue. And I've got a slide here to kind of drive that home a little bit. But as you all remember, in each year when we look at the budget, and I talk about it in terms of budget flexibility or elasticity in the budget, two things that we really look hard at is the sales tax is the one that kind of goes with the economy, but yet for our general fund, it's only 46% of our total revenues. The majority of the rest of our revenues in the general fund are pretty static. So whether the economy goes up or goes down, it relatively stays about the same. So with inflation, it will affect 46% of our revenues. It will go up proportionally. But then personnel cost is 74% of our expenditures. So the inflation causes all of our expenditures to go up, but only 46% of our revenues to go up. And then particularly wage inflation has been going up, and that's 74% of our expenditures. So we have made progress over the last several years in reducing personnel cost as a percentage, trying to help that elasticity in our budget. However, with these challenges, the budget will become less flexible and thereby less sustainable over the years. We can't continue to increase expenditures faster than the revenues come in. So to look at that in a couple of graphs that you all have seen over time, and particularly during the budget process, I've given you a lot of history on the sales tax and the inflation trends. And as you recall from last year in the budget presentation, we talked quite a bit about that. Still same problem, but inflation has come down. We're not peaking at the 9% anymore. It's at the 4%, 4.5%, 5%, somewhere around in there. But again, our sales tax, as you all saw on an earlier sheet, we're basically staying stagnant, but we budgeted a 4% increase. So our 46% of our revenues is going up by about 4%, but all of our expenditures are going up faster than that. So again, the bottom part of that chart there, kind of again showing contrasting the differences. We were able to, in FY18, the personnel expenditures as a percent of the total budget peaked out at almost 84%. We were able to bring that down really through revenue growth and being able to invest in some other things at 74%. Why this is important is with revenue or with a service organization with so much of our cost being personnel costs, and really the other expenditures are related to that, and the other expenditures are pretty well fixed, utility costs are going to be pretty much the same. As you have an employee, for example, the police department, as you have more officers, you need to equip them with cars, and you've got to put gas and oil in those cars, because it doesn't do any good to hire a police officer and not give them the equipment that they need to go do their job. Same way with fire department. It doesn't do any good to have a firefighter on staff if they don't have a truck to go respond to a fire with. So I say all of that to say that in order for us to cut expenditures, you really have to look at cutting services. And by that, you're cutting services because you're cutting staff. And so that's the elasticity in the budget. We don't want to get to there, So what and we don't have to be right now because we've, over the years, built these reserves. I'm pointing all of this out to say this is what we've got to work on, this is what we've got to be aware of, because it's not easy to spend less. So I say all of that to say this. It's a whole lot easier to grow the organization or grow revenues than it is to try to figure out ways to cut back on expenditures. So we instead of trying to figure out how to slow the growth in expenditures, let's figure out how to grow the revenue at a faster rate. So the first place to look at that is through the economic development retail recruitment. Also, one of the things that we're doing one of the areas of focus is the more offsets. So like the public works structure that we've done, it promotes doing more in-house, which is cheaper than contracting it out. So if we are able to do engineering of small projects, the utility locates that we now have in-house or bringing in-house, the GIS person to instead of contracting all of that out. So those offsets help us to spend the dollars in a different way so that we get more service out of the same dollars, if that makes sense. Asset management, as I talked about the supply chain, that we are buying used equipment and keeping it longer. That means that we need to do better with our preventative maintenance and planning and coordination of that, so that will equal reduced repairs and then also longer asset lives. Also within that area is creating more in-house capabilities, kind of the same way. If we can train and equip staff in-house on doing more and more, we can do less outsourcing of our repairs and maintenance on both fleet and facilities. And so as we do more of that in-house, it's cheaper to do it in-house than it is to pay for it. The airport, we talked about the airport becoming an enterprise operation so that we are generating more revenues there, which helps us grow the expenditures. But again, we're spending, targeting spending at where does it bring in more revenues. Recycling, we mentioned that offsets the landfill fee, including the tipping fees that we are now paying on the deal that the county passed. So if we, I can't remember, it's like $38, $40 a ton, somewhere around there, that we pay for every ton of waste that we take to the landfill. If we can reduce any of that cost or offset any of that cost through recycling, then it saves us money. So, okay, merit. Another place that I feel very strongly, and we have talked with this council or talked to councils in the past, and councils were all on board with moving in the direction of merit. Again, the thought process is we want to target where we're spending money to do the most good. So as we have difficulty or stressed to control wage inflation as much as we can, we have to spend that on the top performers. And so we have to spend that wiser. So that's the whole concept is to keep the top performers longer and better and keep them motivated. And so if we're have to work short, we have the best performers to be able to work short. Benefits, another piece of this is the self-insurance, the bringing in the self-insurance helps us provide more control over that expenditure so that we can reduce that expenditure over the long term. And then it also creates flexibility that spells out opportunities to make it a better recruitment and retention tool. For example, we get to design our plan to be what we really want, what our people are using, and what means something to them, as well as we were able to take the savings that you all have passed in the current deal. We were able to take that savings that we were going to get right off the bat of going into the self-insurance plan and roll that into increasing the amount that we're paying for the dependents. So again, making it a better plan for us going forward that increases flexibility, spends our dollars more wisely, and keeps the good folks here. So. Retail recruitment, you'll see that again. We had that last year in the priorities, but we are going to look at that a little bit differently, and really again kind of look at doing some more of that in-house, doing a more comprehensive or more targeted approach to that. But it's all wrapped around that concept of that growth is much more palatable, spending money or investing money to make it more palatable to grow than it is to cut. And if you get yourself caught into trying to cut your way to prosperity, you're going to end up in what I call the death spiral, where the spiral gets bigger every time you go around. The more you cut, the less services you can provide, therefore the less desirable it's going to be to come to the community, less desirable it is for retail. So then in that case, then you've got less revenue, so then you got to cut more. So it becomes a vicious circle here. The continued jobs creation and the housing must coincide with the retail recruitment. The old adage that I hear quite often is rooftops follow jobs and retail follows rooftops. We've been very blessed, and we've done a good job of bringing the job creators into town, the manufacturing, and those continue to grow. So, we're providing the right environment and those kinds of things. However, we have a lot more people coming to town to work than we have people leaving town to go to work elsewhere. And so if we can get more of those folks to live here or spend here, at least the money that they're making here, we want them to spend here. So we need to concentrate those efforts on filling all of that at the same time. Healthcare, we talked a lot about this last year, and I'm pleased to report that it's a better situation than it was last year. The mayor, I think, will echo my sentiments here. We really went through some tough times, made some really tough choices at the hospital, all aimed at maintaining that independent and local control. And then we also want to lead in the health of the citizens versus just when taking care of people when they get sick. We want to keep them from getting sick. We have realigned two areas that we really made a lot of progress in this last year that we're starting to see the benefits of, is realign the provider compensation packages to where it's more incentive-based or more performance-based compensation for the providers, which it really doesn't cut their wages. It gives them the opportunity to earn that and more by growing the revenue side. So it's kind of that same concept that I'm talking about here. And so it puts them in a position to where, but then there's also, I guess, the side of that as well, where we have some doctors that are getting up there in years and wanting to slow down and starting to look at retirement and looking at that horizon. So if they want to slow down, fine. they see less patients, then they get paid less, you know? So it's all based on that, and it gives them that opportunity to make those life balance choices. The other big piece is we were able to attain 340B status. That gives us about a $6 million a year, plug in the hole that we were creating of about that amount. So those two things put together, and some other things that we've done, but those two major things in my mind were the big accomplishments that are able to make me say we have stabilized the operations of the hospital for now. However, the caveat there is we still have an aging infrastructure. We've got old buildings, we've got some old equipment. We are basically breaking even, keeping our head above water, but we're not generating money that's going to replace that aging infrastructure. So I say that all to say this, I think we're out of the woods, but we need to continue working. Does that make sense?
They lost money though last year, right? I mean,
yes.
the year before they lost $6 million, or was it this year?
Yeah, we attained 340B status, really started in October, and that's past their fiscal year. So what I'm saying is
The projection is they'll break even this fiscal year.
Actually a little more than break even. It'll be, I think we're looking at, I want to say the budget's right around $2.5 million.
Yeah, we've affected corrected the trend line.
Yeah.
Trend line was out this way, and we're headed up flat.
Well,
We're headed up.
It's up a
yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, we
It's not up enough to provide infrastructure, is what you're saying?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Our days cash on hand was, the low point was about 25 days cash on hand. We're back up to about 34 days cash.
You might explain the 340B.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me, make sure I can say this right. 340B it's named after the section in the federal legislation. And what it does is it allows, it allows the hospital or the hospital group basically to purchase drugs at a much reduced rate. It basically the way you qualify for it is that you show the ratio of your the people that you are treating that are on Medicaid versus Medicare versus private pay. So if you hit that formula right, then and it's 8%, basically the number that you got to hit is that you're showing that you're treating low income people to that level, then you get to buy these drugs at a much reduced rate. And then you also, in our pharmacy, we also get to do contracts to where we can share in the revenue, not only for our pharmacy, but the other pharmacies that are selling to the patients that we are treating or prescribing to. So and that's the big area.
Yeah, so you get a savings there, and then you get, when you're getting reimbursed, that's whenever you're.
I had the opportunity to speak with Lori and Steve this week, with this 340B, and we are saving 6 figures weekly with this 340B. So, I mean, I feel like the excitement level with the leadership here with Bothwell has definitely increased.
A couple of things with that. One, you got to continue to keep your payer mix right within that formula, and then two, there's constantly attacks from, I believe, the insurance companies, right? From the outside, where they're attacking that federal legislation to try to change that. So we're
Big Pharma.
Yeah, Big Pharma is attacking that. So that's a couple ways it could go wrong.
And that's why they're relying on state government to kind of go around those issues and help the 340B and enhance it. So I also had the opportunity to meet with the new VP of Clinic Operations, Marvin Smoot, and his excitement. He's from South Dakota, and his excitement to really get involved with our community, kind of change the direction, kind of change that reputation a little bit is there, and so I'm excited to see what he can do for
Very professional.
Very.
Okay,
Any other council questions or anything?
did I make that make any sense?
Oh, you did, you did great. That's what I had in my head. Anything else?
Are you asking for questions, or no? Okay. You want to keep, I want to go back eventually to the public works structure slide, but
Okay.
I'm not sure when to jump. When you keep going, Phil.
Okay.
Finish up and go back.
So as we go forward, of course, for the planning, you know, the comprehensive plan is our document that we lay out there and update at least every 5 years or so, or try to every 5 years or so. Is the comprehensive plan, is our overarching plan of how we are trying to push the community forward. And if you all recall, going back to that, there was 4 kind of guiding themes to the plan. First is the robust, active living opportunities, a thriving economy, high quality and diverse housing, and exceptional transportation and infrastructure. So as we go through that, I want to talk about what we're doing now and what we're proposing to go forward. So the first guiding theme was the robust, active living opportunities. Of course, as I mentioned, the game changer there, the Heckert Community Center, and as Amy did in her presentation, that continues to grow, the usage of that, and it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do. It's enhancing people's lives. It's helping people stay active, and so it along with all of the other parks and rec facilities are helping to continue to do that. The grant for the Liberty Stadium, for example, is another big piece that also helps us in the economic development area or the economy area to help us attract with sports tourism and those kinds of things. But then also the other piece drawn again out of her strategic plan was the replace and update the outdoor pools to be something completely different. It's aquatic center as opposed to a swimming pool, if you will. Maximize the Katy Trail impact, the Complete Streets initiatives that we've talked about, the walkable communities, the sidewalk initiatives, the activating alleys, the alley reactivation. You'll see some of that in the blue. You'll see something involved in the scoring sheets. And then I added to it this year the Spring Fork Lake opportunities. And if you all recall the public meeting that we had there and then the survey results, it was that was really used and underutilized. So there's opportunities to make more improvements, and we'll get back into that. So. The next item, or the guiding theme of a thriving economy, the retail recruitment. Again, we've done good at bringing in job creators or manufacturing that creates payroll, as well as others. It's not all manufacturing, but we want to turn that payroll here. You know, you got to have places for them to spend that money. So we need to invest into our retail recruitment. We still have negative leakage, yet when you look at that negative leakage, there are places within that we have positive leakage, or people are spending more outside. They're taking our dollars that they earn here and spending them elsewhere as opposed to spending them here. Some of those big categories that I saw in that report were furniture, grocery, believe it or not, seated restaurants. They showed, they break that down. The fast food restaurants or the drive-through restaurants, we have negative leakage there. But for seated restaurants, we have more people spending money, according to their studies, elsewhere. They're going out of town for the seated fine dining more than they're coming to town for seated restaurants.
We don't have it. What do we have? We just added the chicken, the sit-down family restaurant, we only have Perkins right now. And Colton's and Blue Bighorn for like 3 days a week. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have some others, but, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we added, we have
The chicken, what's that place called? Slim Chicken, and we lost Golden Corral, so Bob's right, I mean, we really haven't made any progress. I can't think of anything else we added restaurant-wise.
whenever a restaurant closes in town, all I see is people want a Red Lobster, they want all these restaurants that you can go, Olive Garden, that you can go to Columbia and sit down and eat at. You know, I think it's all based off population and, I personally don't have the money to open up a Red Lobster. If I did, I guarantee I'd have a Red Lobster here.
Yeah, so the point here is that we need to convince the developers and the owners of these restaurants that you're talking about, we need to convince them that if they come here, there's demand here. And so we can do that through the studies, but we need to package our community and tell our story. We know the story, the developers don't know our story.
I agree with,
The Japanese restaurant's really good too. I don't want to forget them. I've really enjoyed that.
I agree with Councilman, Hiller. Have our numbers, as far as population is concerned, is what many of those larger restaurants are looking at. How many do you have there? So I would say, is our population number correct? I don't think what's on that sign is correct, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, and that's my point. There is if a restaurant owner or whatever, a restaurant chain or whatever, a developer's looking at our community, they're going to look at our website, or they're going to Google, and they're going to say our demographics are right at 22,000 and average income 38,000, something like that. And they're going to say that doesn't fit our demographics. But we know we are really more like 35, 38,000, and a demographic of probably an average income around 42, 43, somewhere around in there. If you just draw a line that's maybe two aisles outside the city limits, that's really what we are. That's really the demographics that we need to sell to them of what we are. John? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and our commuting numbers, I think we have about 12,000 people commuting here and about 4,000 that are commuting out. So there's about 8,000 more population that are coming here to work that are not counted in our demographics at all.
So what do we need to do to get those numbers corrected?
Yeah.
So the idea here is we need to figure out how we can package this and get the attention, because the retailer, again, is going to look at our demographics and say, you don't fit, so they'll look on. We got to be able to sell ourselves. We got to be able to put that information together and figure out how can we get it in front of them so that we can tell the real story.
Right, okay.
Well, Columbia is a good example. Columbia's fair, or Columbia's Friday afternoon traffic, is the students coming back to the university. And we have a similar situation, but, the other thing that bothers me, we talked about earlier, that retail follows rooftops, right? Well, a lot of our rooftops are just outside the city limits to the west. And we need to start talking about incorporating those people into our community at some point in time, and at least get that discussion started. I believe.
Yeah, or
for
tell
a
the
lot of different
retailers.
reasons, it would be a benefit to us, and it'd be a benefit to them. I really think we could sell that. But everybody, I think the last thing, we say that about restaurants, but I had a retail lumber business, and Menards is here and Lowe's is here. And they were smart enough to realize that Sedalia's population of 23,000 did not represent the economic strength that this area has when you incorporate Whiteman Air Force Base, when you incorporate all the lake traffic and all those other things. So I think we can sell it to the restaurants in the same way that the building material suppliers at least have realized that.
Yeah, and that's what this whole line item is about, is generating that, investing in packaging and selling. So, yeah, I'm sorry, there's the numbers I had right there, the jobs commute to, and didn't read my own slide, did I? Okay, so, and then also continue the downtown development. We've got some momentum going there, but we need to continue that. And again, and part of that concept again is putting the right business in the right place, you know. Not everybody's gonna fit downtown, not everybody is good for the west side of town either, you know, so we gotta promote that and try to get them to go where they should go, or but we are getting enough traffic downtown, and when I say traffic, it's not necessarily car traffic, it's foot traffic, but it's traffic going there to shop. We're getting enough there that we're creating some momentum so that they can build upon that. So my adage of traffic gets traffic. So capitalize on the rail spur for the continued industrial growth, and then the transload facility, and see if we can't get that done. Leveraging the sports tourism. We talked about the Liberty Stadium, but then there's other opportunities for sports tourism. The Heckert Community Center helps us with that as well. The Amtrak, the Katy Trail, and the State Fairgrounds.
On that note, it is noon. Are we able to break for maybe 10, 15 minutes to allow staff to grab their food while we continue the working lunch?
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, would you be okay with that?
Okay, we'll go ahead and break for, 15 minutes to allow everyone to go ahead and grab lunch.
Well, 15 minutes you got, starting it now.
Okay, so you want me to close, go to meeting?
I don't think Erwin and Daniel have a 15-minute lunch in their life.
It's a working lunch. I'm just saying, it's like, they can go grab